Hello. Oops, microphone. I need a microphone that for some reason looks like Richard wrapped the cord all around it. Oh, that's a no. No, that's how shorts happen. Electrical shorts, not YouTube shorts. So let's see if this is good. Sorry, I'm a little late getting started. Hello and happy Friday, everyone. Hello to Jerry at Butler Family Farm. Hello, Bud Files. How are you? I was trying to sneak in a little bit of lunch before the show. Maybe not quite so successfully, but we're going to have a fun time today. Before any of that starts, I just have to share this image. Oh, how about click on the right button? We'll talk with my guest today a little bit about this as well. My Texas Rangers are going to the World Series. So they've been to the World Series before, but they've never brought home that trophy. It's impressive that the Arizona Diamondbacks are also in the World Series. I don't think they've been around quite as long as the Rangers, so we won't know. We won't know what might happen. Oh, it says I'm dark. Hang on. Jerry says I'm dark. So I just wanted to give a shout out to the Texas Rangers on an amazing season this year. And here's to hoping that we're gonna have a great season. Okay, let me take that off the screen and then let's see. So can you see me? Sound off in the chat. Let me know if you can see me. I'm gonna check this stream on another window. Wow, I've got a terrible connection. We're back to our Spectrum internet, terrible connections, and I'm even hardwired. I've just learned to use my Ethernet cord and hook up with an actual hardwire instead of just going off of the Wi-Fi. Yeah, I'm looking now to see. I'm running a speed test to see what might be going on. And hopefully it will improve as the stream goes on. If the sound is good, I've always heard that if you don't have a particularly great image, but the sound is clear, my upload speed looks to be pretty good. So maybe that's a YouTube traffic issue. That's funny talking about traffic. So I just wanted to share that Texas Rangers news with everybody because that's always an exciting time. I don't follow sports really very closely anymore for various reasons. Partly just I'm just too busy. I don't have time to watch games and stuff. But back in the day, when my kids were little, we were huge Rangers fans and we were at every home game. The kids grew up and they knew all the players' names. I still remember when Leslie was a baby. So she was maybe 15, 18 months old when she really began to enjoy going to the games with us. And Rafael Palmeiro played for the Rangers back then. And we would even go early, y'all, to watch them take batting practice. And so we were standing at the sidelines or whatever that's called while they were taking batting practice. There weren't a whole lot of people that did that, so we were easy to notice. And Rafael Palmeiro walked over and handed Leslie a baseball. She called him her Rafi. That's my Rafi. So if we were watching games on TV because they were out of town, and his name, they would say his name, or she would see him even as she got a little older. She would say, "That's my Rafi." Oh my gosh. So she grew up a Texas Rangers fan, all of the kids, again, because we spent a lot of time enjoying baseball as a family when they were little. And I still like baseball. I like baseball way better than football. I won't go into all the personal reasons why. I think it's just a better sport, but I enjoy it more. But again, I don't have a whole lot of time to keep up with that kind of stuff now, so I don't get to watch a lot of games. And I can just kind of be proud from a distance that they are going to the World Series this year. So they're due that trophy for sure. And again, I'm going to hope that the quality of the stream improves over time. I don't know what might be causing the less than stellar picture because I've got a nice slow ping. I'm checking my speed again. I had a great upload speed just a minute ago, even though the picture looked really bad. And what I started to say was, maybe I did say it, I tried to sneak in some lunch before the show. It's been really busy today, so I didn't get a chance to get any lunch. So pardon me for being a little bit behind schedule. We are going to do our channel stats first, and then my friend Mark will be joining us around 2:20ish. So let me pull up the channel stats screen, and we'll go over that right quick. And then I'll have some fun news to share with you when we get to one of our member channels, one of my greatest friends here on YouTube. But let's get started with my list. These are channel members that also have YouTube channels. So that's why they're separated from just the previous guests on the show. So not all of these channel members that have channels have been guests on the show. But I like to make you aware of the fact that they have channels so that you will be encouraged to go and check out their channels and show them some support. They've been a great source of support to me in lots of different ways, but one of those ways is that they are channel members. So first on that list, Nina and Boyce here in Texas, our Texas neighbors at Rooted in Texas, are at 904 today. Ordered Steps, holding on to that 1,320 something. My friend Akashi Chris at Mind Fork is at 508. Again, she and her husband Stuart have visited us here at Rich Cat Ranch. She even did a little crossover video that turned out super cute. So go to her channel and check that out. My friend Joe Hupp in Australia is at 348. Lazy Days Ahead, our Texas friends and neighbors Jesse and Lisa at Lazy Days Ahead with Jesse and Lisa are at 1,670 something today. Jerry and Susan and their family at Butler Family Farm are at 2,000 between 10 and 20, 2019. And Jerry says 2019 thanks to Daisy. So let me tell you about that. If you've missed it, our foster dog Posey, that I know a lot of you have met, quote unquote, through videos I've been sharing on the channel. We got her 3 weeks ago yesterday. Jerry and Susan met her. We'd had her about a week, I guess, when they came to meet her on their way to Pinecone Fest here in East Texas, a couple hours from where we live. But they met her, and she made a good impression. We were just waiting for her to get her last set of puppy vaccine boosters before she could be officially ready for adoption, listed as available for adoption. So Jerry and Susan made me aware of the fact that they were very interested in her. And long story short, they are her new family. Their son Robert is going to be kind of her primary dad, but I made a trip to McAlester, Oklahoma to meet with them. That's kind of the halfway point between where they are in southwest Missouri and where we are. It was a wonderful introduction. She took to Robert right away. She has met the dogs and the cats now at their house. If you haven't checked out the video about that, it went out at 6 a.m. this morning. So you can watch her in her new home, meeting her new fur siblings. She just looks like she is so happy. And just again, a plug for fostering animals. That is the goal of every foster parent when you foster animals and save lives by fostering, is to teach them how to be family dogs, to teach them that not all humans are bad or neglectful or abusive. Not all other animals are vicious or violent or unfriendly. And so during her time here, obviously she met all of our animals, 3 dogs, 5 cats, the horse, the mule, the ducks, the geese. She didn't officially meet Yancey, but she did get to see her swimming around in her tank. And then we had probably 5 or 6 different boarders here at the house off and on during the 3 weeks that she was with us. So she had lots of opportunities to introduce herself to other dogs and just understand that it can be safe and happy and enjoyable. And it looks like that's what she's living now. So she's going to be a great ranch dog. I just have to remind you guys to check out Butler Family Farm for lots of reasons, but right now it's because you'll be able to keep up with her as she grows into a grown-up German Shepherd dog and takes on whatever work it is she's going to be doing at Butler Family Farms. So check that out and show them some love, show her some love. And oops, how do I get this off of here? I guess I'll put another one on. Okay, so we're going to leave that there for a minute. And then David Hunt also has a channel here. He's at 669 subscribers today. Previous guests on the show. Oh, and let me go back. So of the people that you see on this list, only Joe Hupp and Mindfork have not been on the Roundup to kind of introduce themselves to everyone and meet new subscribers. Hey, Nora, thank you for being here today. And let's now move on to previous guests on the show. Let me do this reminder, guys. If you are interested in being on the show and being interviewed so you can tell people about your channel and who you are and what you do, just encourage them to come by and show you some support and engage and get involved with your growth on YouTube. Send me an email. That's all you have to do is send me an email, and we'll get you scheduled on the show so you can come and visit with my audience and drum up some new support. So jot that email address down, richcatranch@yahoo.com, and let me know that you'd like to be on the show. We'll find a day to get you on the show. All right. So Lee at First Floor Audio from the UK is holding on to his 1,250 something subscribers. Adam Sky, another friend of mine in the UK, is at 361 today. Kevin at All Bugs Go to Kevin, what a great show that was, is at 428 today. Jeff and Lorena, Texas neighbors of ours at Back to Country, are at 821 today. Amanda, my friend Amanda at Bare Bones Living, is at 911. My friend Brian at Bearded Eagle is at 1,367. My friend Ashley at CNC Farm is at 2,280 something. My friend Tiffany at Canadian Family Life is at 2,040 something. My friend Heather at Come Hither with Heather, also in Australia, is at 1,100, between 1,100 and 1,110. My friend Danielle at Danny Days Ahead is holding on to her 1,080 something subscribers. My friend Dawn Ray B is at 575. Our friends Brittany and Big K at Flannel Hill Farm, get over there, cursor, are at 321 today. They have German Shepherd puppies in their mix now. They've added a couple of farm dogs that will be working dogs for their animals. And so that's been fun watching them grow and learn. Friends of Big Bear Valley, the FOBB Cam, which is the home of Jackie and Shadow in the San Bernardino National Forest. My second favorite all-time heart eagle nest. They are still at the 216 something thousand subscribers. My friends Jen and Steve at Good Times Homestead with Jen and Steve are at 1,070 something subscribers. My friend John at Home Bartending with John is at 405 today. My friend Kirsten Nelson is at 217. Thanks for those of you that have gone to check out her channel and show her some support. If you missed it, she interviewed me on her show this past Saturday. And that was a great time for me because we got to talk all things animals, not just horses. We talked about horses, and she was most interested in my work with dogs and training dogs. And, her focus is horses. But as she points out in her interview with me, most people that have horses also have dogs. And we just had a great time confirming for each other that the processes are pretty much the same. If you're working with dogs or horses, the way you connect is pretty much the same. So that was a really fun interview, and I'd love for you guys to check that out. My friend Peter Tragos at Lawyer still picking up 1,000 or 2,000 new subscribers every week. He's at 282,000 subscribers this week. My friend Katie at Mayfield Ranch at 1,300, something between 10 and 20. My friend Millionaire Paul at Millionaire Paul, the Millionaire Challenge, also in the UK, is at 327 today. My friend Tammy at Mountain Grandma is at 957. My friend Tiffany at Mud and Mascara Homestead is at 572. My friend and Texas neighbor Nick at Multi-Hunter 24/7 is holding on to his 1,090 something subscribers. Oh, I took myself out of chat. Let me make sure I'm not missing anything. Yes, lots of great channels here again. The biggest reason I share these subscriber count updates for you is that I just want you to know that these are quality people that offer quality content that you can enjoy and learn from or relax with or be inspired and motivated by. So all of them need to be on your to-do list for checking them out to add new channels to your rounds as you're visiting channels on YouTube. Back to my list. My friend Ginger at Not for Nothing Homestead. Oh, so did I say Nick is at 1,090 something? Ginger at Not for Nothing Homestead is also at 1,090 something. My friends Ryan and Devin at Our New Land are holding on to their 5,300 something between 10 and 20. My friend Nancy at Our Treasured Home is at 1,160 something. My friend Marin at Palma Pioneer Pantry is at 297. My friend Shane in Canada at Paralife TV, your everyday wheelchair ninja, is at 2,190 something. Great channel for inspiration and motivation right there. My friend John at Pedroza Travel is at 1,190 something. My friend Dr. Lund at Psychology Noir with Dr. Lund is holding on to her 1,030 something subscribers. Wes and Jess, my friends at Rich New Design, are at 638 today. My friends Ronnie and Brittany in California at Ronnie and Brittany RB Story are at 815. My friend and Texas neighbor David at Safe and Sound Texas Audio Excursion is at 3,200 between 10 and 20 something today. My friend Shannon at Shanster Travels is at 1,950. Look at that 50 something. Look at that nice 100 subscriber jump in a week. But check out Sparrow Spalding. So Sparrow Spalding is blowing and going, y'all. So she today is at 7,740 something subscribers. Check that out. My friends Kenny and Debbie at The Adventures of Kenny and Debbie are at 824. My friend Angela at The Inquisitive Farm Wife is at 2,220 something. My friend Dino at The Late Late Horror Show is at 1,021 or 121,000 something today. My friend Tom Salta is at 3,030 something. My friends John and Sarah at Two Doves Bees and Gardens is at 1,780 something today. My friends the Vineyard Chicks are at 4,730 something today. My friend Ralph at Webb's Web is at 1,050 something still today. And my friend Robin at What the Flock is still at 592 today. Again, your name here. Send me an email. Let's get you on the show. Introduce you to some prospective new viewers and subscribers. And again, you guys jot down some of these channel names and go and check them out. Let me close this. And I'll tell you about, again, some things that are coming up here. We won't have a new foster puppy for a little while because we've got a boarder that's supposed to be dropped off this evening, another boarder that will be dropped off tomorrow around noon. Gucci will be here her regular days, either Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, or Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. And then on Thursday next week, the 2nd, we have 3 boarders coming. And so for a while, the boarder that's going to be dropped off this evening, she'll still be here. Gucci will have gone home, or Gucci will go home maybe that evening, depending on which 3 nights she's staying. So we'll have a house full here for the next week or so. The 3 that are coming next Thursday, it's 2 repeat boarders, kind of regulars here, but that family has a foster puppy right now. So we're going to have the foster puppy as well. So that's going to be exciting. And Tuesday, mark your calendars. 10 a.m. I think is the time I have set for a premiere for the final day of Croctober 2023. I am sharing my recipe for pork and cabbage. Don't be grossed out. I know people sometimes hear that name, pork and cabbage, and they think, ugh. I love it. I could eat the whole pot in one sitting. I could eat it every day for lunch and dinner for a week. It's so good. It's so easy. And it's great for fall weather. And so that's going to be my contribution for this year's Croctober collaboration, Croctober 2023. So be there with me 10 o'clock Tuesday morning. I don't usually do premieres that early in the day, but since it's the last day of Croctober, I wanted the video to be live for everyone for as much of the day as possible since it's the last day. And then go back and watch that playlist for all of the Croctober submissions. A lot of great channels. I think there are 2 recipes every day, so you'll get lots of ideas for what to do with your crock pots this winter. Hello, Joe Hub. How are you? Good day, I should say. So you'll get lots of great crock pot ideas. I always come away from these collaborations with a big long list of stuff I want to try, new recipes, new things I want to cook. So check it out. I'll look for you at 10 o'clock on Tuesday morning next week. Halloween, that is the 31st of October. But when you go back and watch the playlist, like those videos as you're watching them, leave a comment on each of them, and that will automatically enter you into a drawing for prizes that will be drawn on November 2nd at Jenny's Scratch Made Kitchen. That channel, the Jenny Scratch Made Kitchen channel. Jenny at Jenny Scratch Made Kitchen, and Tony at Kettle Kitchen are the hosts of this year's Croctober event. They hosted last year as well, but it's always a great event. You'll see so many different kinds of channels. And again, you will definitely find some recipes that you will want to try. So that's what's coming up next. I do have a video going. I think I have a video uploaded and ready for Sunday evening. And then the following Sunday, the 5th of November, is that right? No, what's that next Sunday? Whatever that next Sunday is. Yeah, the 5th. Okay, yeah, that's right. Because the 2nd is when those dogs are coming on Thursday. I'll be premiering the first ever Dogs of Rich Cat Ranch taste test. I know a lot of other dog channels do taste tests, and I've thought about doing one for a long time, but I just wasn't sure how I wanted to do it. I decided I really wanted to do it while baby Posey was here because I wanted her to be in it. I wanted to see how she did. I think it turned out great. We had a lot of fun with it. The dogs, for sure, had a lot of fun with it. So join me at 7 p.m. on Sunday, the 5th of November for that premiere. And I'm hoping to make that taste test at least an annual thing that we do with the dogs, whichever dogs might be here at the time. And after that, my next thing on the schedule is I am participating in Noodle November. That my day for that is the 24th of November. Still don't know for sure what I'm going to make, but I have time to figure that out. And then December 10th, that's my last collaboration thing I think I'm participating in. I'm participating in CNC Farms cookie collaboration, holiday cookie collaboration this year. And I'm going to make something that's a throwback to my childhood that I should have paid more attention when my grandmother used to make these. She always made them at holiday time. Hello, Lee at First Floor Audio. Thanks for being here today. But let me send Mark a message and let him know we are ready if he wants to join us. Hang on, let me find it. Wow, I send a lot of messages. Where did it go? Oh, because I didn't message, I called him. So let me look it up. And so Jerry put a short up. So there's the video about Daisy is her new name. Foster dog Posey, her new name is Daisy. Is that sweet? Her new name is Daisy. They did a video again that went out at 6 o'clock this morning, and it was just her first day, her first introductions to the animals and their trip home from our meeting place in McAllister, Oklahoma. I'm not multitasking very well today. Oh, so I type his name in and the client's name. Oh, the client's name. We have a client whose husband's name is Mark, spelled the same way. Here we go. I know he was going to be available after 2 o'clock. So I told him I'll do my channel related stuff first and then we'll bring you up. So I just need to make sure he doesn't still need links. And we talked yesterday on the phone. He asked if I preferred that he meet us from his car computer. You know, they have computers in the police cars, or just meet him, at his desk. And at first I thought, the car would be neat. But I thought the car would be neat because as I've been watching all these police pursuit videos and stuff, and check that out. I did a reaction video to police pursuit videos on YouTube last Saturday. That got me really worked up. Watching those really gets me worked up. So knowing that the people that we've been interviewed have had to do some of what I've seen in some of those videos, it's just even more exciting for me. But I was sharing with him that on a lot of those videos I watch, the officers have, like, they have a whole city worth of stuff in their cars. So there are times when, there's like a crash and then a car starts to smoke or starts to catch on fire. They go to their trunk and they get out their fire extinguisher. Or I saw one video recently where there was this guy slumped over in his car and the officer was able to determine that he was overdosing on something, and he got Narcan. He had a kit in his car and gave the guy Narcan to help counter the effects of the whatever it was he took. And raincoats and safety cones, and I've seen times in some of these videos where the police arrest someone and they go to put them in their back seat and they've got to move boxes and stacks of paper and stuff. So we'll talk with Mark about that, but he shared with me that their cars that's their office. Like they have to drive around in their office because they have to do paperwork. And again, they have to be prepared for any kind of emergency or first aid needs. But watching these videos, I just thought, oh my goodness, I bet it made me think of that. It makes me think of that old show, Let's Make a Deal. You guys remember that show with Monty Hall? And I know growing up, I would watch that show and I would think to myself, one day I'm going to have a big, like a tote bag. I'm just going to carry a big tote bag. This is me as a little girl. Now I hate carrying a purse. Oh, I hate carrying a purse, but what are you going to do? And I used to think I was going to just carry a tote bag everywhere I went. And it was going to have paper clips and glue and, oh my gosh, what else? Locks and keys and Q-tips and water bottles. It was going to have anything I could fit in it. It was going to have, so that if I ever happened upon Monty Hall somewhere and he said, I'll give you $100 if you've got a paperclip in your bag, then I would be golden, because that show was just so fascinating. And that's how that worked. If you haven't watched that, I'm sure there are old episodes of that here on YouTube somewhere. Okay, Mark says he's here. My screen is frozen. I don't know what's going on with my internet today, y'all. I'm going to run a speed test again right quick. Hopefully when you see him, he'll be much clearer than I am, because that's not unusual to have the guest have much better quality video than I have. Oh, I see what this is saying. I don't know if I can refresh this screen, and I don't know if I can go out and come back in. Let's see. Who is willing? I'm going to put the link for the stream in the chat. Somebody, before we bring Mark up, somebody click that link and come up. I'm going to put you on screen while I go out of the studio and come back in. And we'll see what it looks like, and we'll see if it unfreezes me to do that. So if y'all can still hear me, somebody click my link. Oh, I'm trying to type over my microphone. Okay, here comes Jerry. I'll put Jerry up. And y'all tell me, is Jerry's image clearer than mine? And while you're talking, Jerry,
on my end, it's clear.
Okay, because when I just look at it on my computer, it's great, but I can see that I'm still frozen.
You're still out of focus.
Okay, but I'm going to go. You talk for a minute, Jerry. I'm going to go out of the studio and then come back in.
All right.
Okay.
Sorry, everybody. I need a sandwich. Oh, Joe, first for audio. Nora. Yeah, Daisy is fitting in just fine here. She is. I heard her. Nope, I thought I heard her, but she is fitting in. She tells the Great Dane she's the boss, which is interesting.
Excuse
See, the cats are still kind of a little cautious of her, except for one cat, Zippy. He loves her. He just wants to play with her all the time, and he pounces on her, and and she bites at him, and they get along great. Oh, there's a good image now. That's
Is
a
it
really
better?
good image. Yeah,
Okay.
10 times.
I wish I had thought to do that before now. I was just afraid that if I left with no one else on the screen, I didn't know if it would like shut down.
You can always count on me.
Okay. So thanks for coming in and being a placeholder and giving us the little Daisy update.
No problem. I'll jump out.
All right. And Mark, if you want to click that link, I will be ready to bring you up and you can meet everybody and we'll get started on your story in law enforcement. And I don't know what I might have been saying. I don't know what I might have been saying to y'all before I realized just how bad that stream looked. I pulled up the stream in another window just to see if I needed to do something. All right, and we'll give Mark a minute. Oh, I was talking about collaborations and such. One day, because I think about this every year, especially around holiday time. Well, I mean, we did that Rich Cat Ranch Christmas project last year. That was really fun. I might do something like that again. So this will be the first you're hearing of it. If that's something you're interested in, and you can go back and look at last year's Rich Cat Ranch Christmas project. I invited other channels to contribute clips or even pieces of Christmas videos that they had uploaded to the channel in the past to be featured in our Christmas collaboration, just to give shout outs to our YouTube friends. I think it turned out really sweet. Just after you've done something like that once, I don't know what I would do that would be different. I wouldn't want to put the same stuff in. So, but let me know if it's something you might be interested in participating in. I still think it would be fun if we just had even clips of people sharing like Christmas memories. Maybe you can share memories of what your family traditions were at Christmas or what your favorite Christmas food or Christmas cookie or something like that might have been. And we'll go from there. But first, let me know, guys. Can you hear me? Can you see me? And then Mark, you can come on up. And we'll get started. I'm just asking if he can see me clearly now. For those who may not remember when I was telling you how I know Mark, because so far all the officers I've had on the show for this series, they're people I know in real life through different things. So when we had Kevin on the show, okay, hang on, Mark's calling. Hello? Are you there? Okay. Okay, he's on his way in. He was having some technical issues, but I think we've got it worked out, and he will be on screen with us here in just a bit. Oh my gosh, I keep losing my train of thought. Here he comes. So we won't what dilly daddle around. Let me bring him up. Here you come, Mark. How are you?
All right, how you doing?
Good. So you can see me and hear me.
Yes, and I guess you could probably see me.
Yes, it's
You
perfect.
see what a mess my office is.
Hey, again, we talked yesterday about what I've learned you guys have in your cars.
Yeah, well, I'm a bit of a hoarder too, so I get in trouble with that.
So you have finished your work day today?
Yeah, for the most part. I mean, my work day really never finishes. I'm still dealing with some stuff. We're supposed to have some things this weekend going on with all the weather coming in. So I had to deal with canceling a 5K in the morning. And then we're doing Dia de los Muertos in the afternoon and evening. So I'll be on a 1 o'clock conference call tomorrow to kind of fine tune that. And then I've got a parade on Sunday.
Okay.
So all those things, even though my work day is over, I still get text calls, that kind of stuff. So, but I put my phone on silent. So I should be good for at least the next couple hours.
Hey, we go with the flow here. So whatever happens, happens, and we make it work. So tell us first, geographically, tell us where you are. Tell us a little bit about the city of Grand Prairie.
Okay. Well, the city of Grand Prairie is about 10 miles long, north to south, and it's about 5 miles wide. And on the sides, you have Arlington and you have Dallas. But up north, you may have Hearst, Euless, Bedford, and Irving. In the south, you may have Mansfield and Midlothian. And so we also encompass 3 counties. We have jurisdiction in Dallas, Tarrant, and Ellis County. And actually, we do also have a small part of Johnson County, but right now that's undeveloped, so we really don't do anything with it.
Okay. And then do you live in Grand Prairie?
No, it's a funny thing. When you start to be a cop when I started to be a cop in Grand Prairie, one of my first training officers said, you can either live in the city or live outside the city. Let me tell you what the benefits are or what the drawbacks are. So the benefit of living outside the city is everybody knows you're a cop, but they know you're not their cop. So they can ask you questions, but they don't expect you to do anything. And now if you live in Grand Prairie, your neighbors know you're a Grand Prairie cop. They expect you to do something for them. But also the benefit of being there is if something happens at your house, you've got 50 guys coming to help you. So actually, I'd already bought my house before I became a police officer. And it wasn't very long. I mean, I'd built a brand new house in Arlington. And then we were going to have a child. So I had to buy a bigger one. And I found one not far from where I built my house, so I didn't have to move very far. So I stayed in Arlington.
Okay. And guys, that's how Mark and I know each other. So we went to high school at Sam Houston High School in Arlington, Texas together. You're a year ahead of me, right? Did you graduate?
Yeah. I was in 1980. Yeah. I played some football and baseball and was vice president of student congress.
So. And Mark, if you missed it, that's what I started to tell you guys before all this. If you missed it the day I was telling you that he had gotten the green light to be on the show, or maybe just that I had invited him to be on the show, I was in the Spirit Sisters Club, and Mark's senior year, so my junior year, he was my spirit brother. And that just meant that during football season, you know, he'd get cookies or plush toys or, you know, just something to
little goodies every so often.
Oh yeah. That was great fun for me. And when I think of you, that's kind of one of the first memories that comes to me, because I felt like I got to know you better through that football season that year than I have known you before.
I don't think we really would have ever met. I mean, nothing, not that our social circles might not have come together, but the way what you were involved in and I was involved in, 2 different things. So.
Oh yeah. So anyway, that's the story of how we met. I do know that you graduated from the police academy in 1992.
Yes, ma'am.
And looks like on a really fast track to move up. Lots of certificates of merit, lots of accolades and awards. I don't know how often it happens that someone who has just graduated from the academy is named a Rookie of the Year the following year, but I know that happened with you.
Yeah.
And so I just, obviously that indicates to me that you were cut out for this work. This is your calling. You were answering a calling to go into law enforcement, but I'd love for you to tell us that. Is that really what it's like? Is it like a calling, and is it something you always knew you wanted to do?
Well, let me go reverse on that. It wasn't something I always wanted to do. When I went to college, I was a biology major and a chemistry minor, and I wanted to be a doctor. Well, through years of working my way through school, having a full-time job, and being in a fraternity, which probably wasn't the greatest thing in the world. I love the guys, and I'd never trade it, but my GPA wasn't good enough to get into medical school. So, but I loved working love working and dealing with people. And one of the fun things about it was that I had actually started at Six Flags. I had worked at Six Flags for 14 years. I started out in, I think, 77, sweeping and picking up trash. And before I left in 92, I left there in 92 to become a cop. I was in charge of the ride supervisors. And I'd done everything from wash the park down to work with the janitors to, I was in security at one point. I did the parking lot and all that stuff. I'd had a lot of a varied career out there, and it also introduced me to a whole lot of different people. I mean, you think of it all, the gender, the different race, different religions. I got a chance. I mean, people come to visit the park because they want to get away from things, and they came from all over the world. So I was very lucky to get the chance to interact with folks. So one of my last jobs I had was actually on deep nights, and I was over the guys that washed the park down and did janitorial work. Well, two guys that were working for me were in college, so I would give them jobs when they came back from college, and one of them is a police sergeant here in Grand Prairie right now.
How neat.
And he was always telling me that it was criminal justice. He knew what he wanted to do. And so I give him a job when he come back for the summer, and then he'd go back off to school and in Kansas. And then finally he graduated and he put in for Grand Prairie and got a job. Well, he was relentless in getting on to me all the time, saying, you know what, I think you'd be a good cop. And I kept saying, I don't know. And then I met my wife out at the park, and my brother worked at the park, and we had a thing called anti-nepotism, and no one could move up above the other person. So I decided to take the hit and try something different. So when I took the test for Grand Prairie, it's the only test I took. I ended up scoring second on the test starting out, but then I got bumped to fourth with guys that were ahead of me with military time.
Oh, okay.
And they were only taking one person at the time. And I said, well, I'll just continue and see what happens. And what happened was, through the process, the two guys that had military time, I jumped in ahead of them with the interview stuff. And so I was number 2. And then by the time they got to the end of everything, there were actually 4 positions left.
Oh.
So one guy, the guy who was number 1 on the test, ended up being number 1 at the end. And he and I and 2 other guys from the area all made it through. And we became cops. Now, all 3 of those guys are gone. They've retired since. And every one of them did something outstanding before they left. But we all went to the academy. We went to the Tarrant County Junior College at the time, Tarrant County Junior College.
Yeah.
Now it's Tarrant County College Academy out in the Northwest campus. So we would all I'd drive from East Arlington, for like 22 weeks to go up there to the academy to do our stuff. And we were in there with people from North Richland Hills, Tarrant County Sheriff's Office, Bedford, you name it. It was a lot of Tarrant County agencies, and one guy from Irving, which was a Dallas County agency. Matter of fact, that guy I've stayed in touch with ever since we've been in the academy, and he's in Irving, and he recently retired, and he lives down in Grand Prairie now.
Okay.
So he knows he's got somebody to touch if something comes up.
Nice.
But we made it through, and during the course, they picked president, vice president, stuff like that. And I did some of that in high school, and I even did some in college in my pledge class and stuff. But I decided I don't want to have a part of any being in charge, because this was something very different to me, and I want to focus on it. And I did, and I made it out, made it to Grand Prairie, and when I got here, I can tell you in 1992, police work was a whole lot different.
I'm sure.
And I really wasn't a person who, I was friendly and, outgoing and all that stuff. And back then, most of the people were like dragnet. They were like, just the facts, man. So it was pretty funny. But I managed to make it through and the things you see when you're a rookie, just really, you're not prepared for. I mean, I'll give you an example. One night it's around the holidays, right before Christmas, and one of our guys was doing a thing called STEP, which is selective traffic enforcement. And it's a grant that we have to go out. And when you want to work overtime, you go out and do traffic stuff. There's no requirement on how many tickets you got to write, but you got to make so many stops within an hour. And so our guy that was working it had a jailer sitting in the front seat of his car just as an observer, and they were driving around doing the STEP. And then all of a sudden we get a call that came out. He had stopped a car on Division in Arlington, and a drunk driver hit him. And myself and my FTO were the first guys to get there on scene. And I see the guy he tried to get out of his car. He fell on the concrete, and he was laying face down on the concrete with a puddle of blood around his head. And the guy that was in the passenger seat was trapped because they'd hit him from behind, and it kind of did a crunch kind of thing. So the fire department, I was trying to keep him. The guy on the ground was semi-conscious. I was trying to keep him, alert, trying to ask questions and stuff. Once the ambulance got there, started taking care of him, and the fire department started extracting the other guy, my FTO and a lot of other cops were there. My FTO decided to take me off, out of the scene. And he noticed as I was driving away that my hands were just shaking on the steering wheel, because he was that close to being dead.
Yeah.
And so he makes me pull over in Grand Prairie, and he said I'm not a coffee drinker. I don't drink coffee. I never really have. And he makes me drink some of his coffee.
Because you were so jittery.
So he gave me the coffee, and I drank it because he told me to do it. And he was my FTO, and I did what he told me. And then he sat down and talked to me about what happened. And he said, I know it's kind of scares you, but basically what he said was, you got to get ready for this stuff.
Yeah.
Because this is something that you're going to see, and you're going to see a lot worse than this. And if you don't think you're ready for that, then maybe it's time for you to think about what else. And I was in my last phase of training.
Yeah.
So I'd seen other things. I just hadn't seen an officer yet. Yeah. And so anyway, I made it through, and he signed off on me like right after Christmas. As a matter of fact, I'll tell you another thing that was really neat about it. He was a minister in his off time. And we were driving on Christmas Eve. I'll never forget it. We're driving down the road. It was actually flurries for once. We had flurries on Christmas Eve. And I'm driving down Main Street in Grand Prairie, and we see one of the hookers walking. And she's walking down the road by herself. And he says, pull over. So we pull over, and we know the girl, and we've talked to her before. And he says, hey, what are you doing out here? And she said, I'm just trying to make some money. And he said, well, there ain't nobody out here right now. And so we started talking. And what was funny was he said, hey, let's have a prayer. And it had to be the strangest thing for people who were driving by. There were a few people driving by that saw all of us around each other like this, having a prayer. And we prayed with her that for her safety and her health, and that she would get out of it.
Oh my goodness.
And so it was pretty neat. And that was like my best memory of being in training. Everybody else.
Worst, maybe best and worst.
Yeah. The worst was the accident.
Yeah.
And the best was that. And those are things that will stick with me forever. But it also taught me that you can care about people, even if they're not doing the right thing.
Yeah.
And I used to tell people when they're in the back of my car, taking them to jail, there are 3 types of people in this world. There are good people, and there are bad people, and there are people who make mistakes. And they would say, what about people make mistakes? I said, those are the ones that have to decide after they've made the mistake whether they want to be a good person or a bad person.
Wow. Yeah.
So I learned that, but I'll tell you what, I would have never thought of myself as a cop, and I would have never thought of myself being a cop for 31 and a half years. But I can't think of anything more I would have rather done, at least being able to help other people. And I think there are more of us, people like me out there, than there are the ones you see on TV.
Oh yeah.
And anytime that happens, it just breaks my heart.
Yeah. And again, part of my objective in my support law enforcement focus for for this month and the shows, the Friday live streams, is to help people understand that. You get the one big news story, the George Floyd news story or the Rodney King news story, because that Rodney King story came up last week. My friend who was an officer, that was right around that time that the Rodney King thing had happened. And then people form perceptions and opinions and attitudes based on those things, because we don't get to see or hear about the stories of praying with a, hooker on Christmas Eve when she's out trying to find work. We don't, that doesn't get broadcast. No news person or station shares those kind of stories. And that's what I want people to know. I want people to see who are these humans inside those uniforms, behind those badges, because for the most part, the only firsthand experience they have with police officers is not necessarily pleasant. They've been pulled over for a traffic violation. You and I were talking yesterday, so they already feel bad about it. They already feel dumb because they know they were speeding, or they know they didn't stop all the way at the stop sign, or they know their tail lights out. They already know it, so they feel dumb and they feel guilty, and they're already beating themselves up a little bit, and then they get a ticket for it. And if they have an experience where they encounter a not so pleasant or an officer that's having a bad day and he's kind of short or curt with them, then it just feeds into these negative perceptions. And I would love for you to share your you got a ticket story, because I really hadn't thought about police officers getting traffic tickets until we talked. And I thought, oh my gosh, if that doesn't tell everybody that you're just a regular person too, and you've had encounters too where you got pulled over and maybe the interaction wasn't even so great. But if you'll share that story with us, I
Sure.
just think that had a neat ending, and I think it gives people good perspective.
Well, what's funny is I had gotten the word that I'd actually made it through the whole process and I'd gotten a job. And so I was supposed to go to the police academy the very next week. And I had to quit Six Flags to be able to do that. So I had quit, but my wife still worked there. And while she was working there, I would bring her lunch on occasion. So one day I wasn't working since I didn't have a job at that period in time. I took her lunch at Six Flags, and I was coming back down 360. Well, it was before they had built the connection after 20, what they have now, the toll road.
Yeah.
They had only had the service roads. So service roads are like 45 miles or 40 miles an hour.
Yeah.
So I'm going down home, trying to get back to my house and down there off of in East Arlington. And next thing I know, I'm lit up by a cop's car behind me, and I pull over, and it's Grand Prairie cop. And he comes walking up to my car, and as a matter of fact, it's like license and insurance. I stopped you for doing 52 and a 40. So I get my stuff and I give it to him, because I've been always taught just do what they tell you. And so he grabs it, goes back to his car, and he maybe 5 minutes later comes back with his ticket book, and he's telling me, well, you're receiving a citation for doing 52 and a 40, and you need to sign here, press hard. You're signing 4 copies. You need to take care of it by this date, or it'll turn into a warrant. And I said, well, I'm definitely going to take care of it, because I'm going to be working with you starting next week. And he goes, what? And I said, I'm supposed to go to the police academy to become a police officer in Grand Prairie. And he goes, really? And I said, yeah. And he ripped the ticket out, threw it in my lap, and walked away. He said, take care of it, walk away. And so I kept the ticket. I went, and this is funny too. I was in the police academy. I had to beg them to let me go during lunchtime to go to run the court and take care of it before it turned into, I actually got an extension of 30 days, and then it was coming close. So I went there, and the judge, when he found out what I was doing, that I come from the police academy because I had my shirt on, he chewed me out and then fined me. But anyway, so I go back and finish all that, and I end up being a cop. Well, it just so happens a few years later, I become a field training officer. And while I'm the field training officer, I just happen to be working with that individual again, and he's a field training officer. And the most funny part about the whole thing is he ended up asking me questions on how to do things, and he already had like a couple of years seniority on me. And so it's almost like turnabout. And I kept the ticket, and as a sergeant, when I was a sergeant, I actually put it on a bulletin board behind me at my desk. And when I would get some of the young guys that were, they were just full of fire, spit and vinegar, they were going to go out and solve all the crime. And hey, I don't have nothing against that, but sometimes a little over the top. So the ones that were like going out there and sometimes were writing like 20 or 30 tickets a day, and I would get complaints on them about some of that. I bring them in there and say, hey, what are you doing? And they said, well, it's fine. They were like zero tolerance. And I'm saying, this job is not about zero tolerance. This job is about changing someone's attitude. And you don't change somebody's attitude by just writing them tickets. Sometimes it's a conversation. Sometimes it's a demonstration. In the end, if you don't feel like anything else is going to work, maybe you write them a ticket. And so we'd have that conversation, and I would point to the my copy of my ticket behind me and tell them the story about how I got it from a Grand Prairie cop when I was there, and how I felt personally about getting the ticket, and how I thought, well, you know what, I got to straighten up because I want to be a cop, and I didn't get another ticket ever. Of course, it's a little more embarrassing to get it as a cop, but anyway, I would tell them the story and tell them, hey, you got to consider something. When you're a rookie, they tell you, make up your mind if you're going to write the ticket before you go up there to talk to them. That way you don't let people talk you out of things you need to do. But I never took that attitude. I always thought that there's something to be said. You listen to the story and it either works or it doesn't work. And, and it just doesn't work all the time saying, I got to go to the bathroom and I'm trying to find a place. But the thing is each stop is dangerous, but each stop is also unique. And so you have to kind of be still cognizant of your safety, but you also have that chance to figure out, is there anything else here I should know about before I end up writing them a ticket that could cost them? And I never would ever keep up with how much tickets were, because I don't want to feel guilty about what I was writing. So, but anyway, that was it. I'd keep the ticket. I actually still had that thing when I became a lieutenant, and then I had to move to an office, and somewhere along the move, I couldn't find it.
Well, it served its purpose.
Yeah.
It did what it was supposed to do for the time that you had it.
Absolutely.
And so right now, I think you mentioned when you first came on, there's some events coming up. Did you say there's a parade coming up?
Yep.
And what's that parade about?
Okay. My job is I'm over the traffic division, lake patrol unit, bicycle unit, and special events. So with special events, there's a lot of things that are always going on in Grand Prairie, and sometimes we do things with other cities as well. Well, I have like 4 parades I deal with a year, and this is one of them, and it's kind of really unique. Some of your listeners and viewers may remember Katrina, when the hurricane came in and basically decimated New Orleans. Well, unfortunately, a lot of people didn't have a place to stay, so they shipped them in buses to different centers in the area, in Dallas-Fort Worth area, so that they would have a place to stay, shelter, and all that until they could get New Orleans cleaned up enough where they could go home. Well, a lot of the folks that came with that in the Katrina wave, when it came time to go back to New Orleans, they had already had a job, they already had a place to live, they already had established a life here, so they decided they wanted to stay. And one of the things about it was that they were happy, but they kind of missed their friends and their relatives and some of their routines that they had back in New Orleans. And so some of the folks that stayed here decided to connect with each other and bring back one of their organizations that they had in New Orleans. They had a thing called NOLA Footwork and Social Club. And apparently in this social club, what they call it, is really more of a community service organization. They would raise they go out and do things for the community, raise money for community events and stuff like that. Well, once they had got together here, they wanted to do something to kind of highlight their cultural background or history. So they decided to have what they call a second line parade. And a second line parade is what you see from Mardi Gras, where they have the brass, and they have the very colorful outfits, and they have the umbrellas and beads and all that stuff. So what they do is they got together, formed a committee, and decided they want to have a parade. So they have this parade every year around October. It started out, what's funny is they started out by having the parade. They made sure they had it on a day that the New Orleans Saints were playing so that they could have their parade to wherever they were going. And then they would be able to sit and watch the New Orleans Saints game. So, but nowadays it's kind of hard with the way the NFL's set up. So they just decided we're going to do it anyway. So they end up starting out probably about a half or 3/4 of a mile away from a restaurant where they like to stop. They'll end up, the parade will end there. Everybody will go inside and they'll have a big party. And, but they are a group of great people. They're a lot of fun. They're from all over the Metroplex. They're not just from Grand Prairie. And what's really neat about it is they pay for this. The city's not paying for them. They're paying for it themselves. And then they're still trying to raise money for charity. So I have a great time with them. Matter of fact, they made me Grand Marshal last year. And I didn't get to fulfill that task because I was also the guy who had to call it off because I thought we were having bad weather, real bad weather. And so what happened was they ended up, yep, that's it. That's exactly.
I found this on YouTube. I think this is from last year. I'm not going to play the sound. I don't want to have a copyright issue, but I thought I'd just show this little clip because as you were describing it, I'm thinking, oh yes, I watched this video and I thought that was just really fun.
Yeah, well, we didn't have it last year, but what happened was when I called off the parade, they still had some of their activities because they wanted to still have it. So, but this is what I'm talking about.
The video was published last year. Yeah.
Yeah.
It may just be that the video is from a previous year, but it got put on YouTube last year.
Yeah.
But it just looks so fun. You just feel the spirit, even, and again, if you can't hear it, but there's a band, there's the brass instruments that you saw in the beginning. They're all playing and doing their little demos and their dances. And it just looks so fun.
It is. It's a lot of fun. And like I said, they're good folks. We really have a good we meet like once every week or two to prepare for it and everything. And, we sit at a table, they'll order food and it's like it's usually we have like after dinner, like 6:30 or 7 at night. And we'll all sit around the table, talk about the thing, and they'll have dinner while we're talking. And we all tease each other. It's almost like we're all family. So not a bad deal. And so it's something
that's the parade that's happening this weekend then?
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Okay.
And it will start, like I said, probably about a half to 3/4 of a mile away. And even though it's only that distance, it takes about 2 hours because they're dancing and they're doing stuff along the way.
It's going slow, yeah.
And I have a bunch of police out there to make sure nobody gets hurt, as far as like traffic and stuff like that.
Yeah. And one of my viewers asked, I'm guessing he means that ticket way back in the day that you got. Do you remember what that cost you?
It was like, the judge didn't cut me any slack. It was like $250 something.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And back then you're talking about $1992. I think he gave me the maximum that he could for what they do is they take the number that you're over, like 11 miles out over, and there's like a percentage that they times it by to get the thing. So, and so they use either like there might be an average percentage and you get a certain amount, or there's a high or a low depending on if the judge wants to stick it to you. And that guy, he was they called him a hanging judge, and I totally believe it. So
is he still practicing?
No, he actually retired like a couple of years after that.
Okay.
And I don't know whatever happened to him, but he was a hardcore guy. And I know that after I left there, I didn't want to see him again. But what's sad was I had to see him again because anytime I wrote tickets, I had to go to court and testify in court.
He was
so, but I don't think he remembered me.
So, and that reminds me, I was going to ask you, so that policeman that pulled you over and then you guys ended up working together and you were both field training officers together. Did he remember you then? So did it click for him then when you really did become a police officer and you guys are in the...
It didn't click with him until I told him the story. The story goes, oh shit, that was you? So sorry about that.
No, I guess the good part about that is that it just means he doesn't carry that stuff around with him. He doesn't
No.
like them the whole rest of his life. Think about that, or wonder or worry that, oh yeah, what if he does end up working with me, and then that's
Yep.
that's so I see that kind of as a blessing. But how funny! I can
Yep.
imagine the look on his face then when you
Oh,
shared
he
the
was
story with him.
surprised. He was surprised, especially because I didn't ever bring it up until we got to be FTOs together. So I've been there for a few
You're
years.
established. Oh yeah, yeah. So tell me about your family. I know you have a family, wife and children. And first, tell me about how that impacted your family, because I know you would have had little children early on in your career. And I shared with you yesterday. I'll share it again here. I've said it already on the show before. My perception of law enforcement, police officers, domestic law enforcement, is that it's like they deploy to the battlefield every day, and they have to be prepared to be on a battlefield every day. And I don't know. I know I could not do the work. I'm not even ashamed to say I could never be a police officer. I just couldn't do it. I couldn't handle the people, the rude people, the disrespectful people, the dangerous people, the doped up people. I couldn't do it. I could not survive that. But even, I don't know that as a spouse, I don't know how hard that would be. I don't know how I would learn to not see it like I see it, which is like you're going to a battlefield every day. And so how did that, impact your family? Were there ways around that? Are there things that help them be more comfortable with what you did? Or because you've been married a long time.
Yep. I actually got married a year before I decided to be a cop. We both met at Six Flags, and we're both working out there. And what's funny about it was when I got talked into it, I asked her, I go, so what do you think? And of course, that's not knowing as much as we know now. She said, well, if it's something you want to do and you want to try it, for sure. And so she was okay with it. Well, it is a calling. I'm going to tell you, it's got to be a calling, because we have guys, we're regular people. And like any other industry, there's some people that don't need to be cops.
Yeah.
They feel like they need to be, but they really shouldn't be.
Yeah.
But I was always one. I worried. That's what I worried about, is me being in that position, and was I really supposed to be there? But I'll tell you that my wife was really good about it. She was very supportive. And when I first started working, when I first got cut loose, I was on deep nights. I worked from 11 at night to 7 in the morning. So she had to learn how to stay at home by herself at night, at least 5 nights out of the week. And but the benefit to it was I would sleep while she was at work, and then when she got home, we could do stuff together until it was time for me to go to work. And so we did that. And then when we decided to have kids, it was funny because I was in SWAT, and I was what they now call a breacher. I was a person who got to use a crowbar kind of thing to open the door, or screen door, but pry it open before somebody would hit it with a ram.
We learned about those last week on the show.
Yeah,
my friend last week talked about that.
So I was doing that, and it was working out because we just, me and her. I mean, I get called out in the middle of the day sometimes, or in the evening, because we were running narcotics warrants too. And then, but we started having kids. It started getting really kind of interesting because my son, who was born in like 97, I'd have to stay home with him during the day because I was working nights. I wasn't getting a lot of sleep because I'd stay with him during the day, take care of him, and hand him off to mom and go take a nap before I went to work. But if I got called out for SWAT, I would either have to hand him off to my parents or hand him off to her parents. At the time, her parents were alive. And so it would be like a shuffle. And I only had, being a part of SWAT, you're required to be able to respond within 45 minutes.
Oh yeah. I was thinking half an hour. Yeah.
Yeah. So which was not bad, but when you're having to hand off a child, it makes it close.
Yeah.
But I can honestly say I never missed a call out, and I was never significantly late. I was maybe a couple times, like a couple minutes late, but in any case, it was a challenge. And even having the second child was still a challenge because I'd just given up being a SWAT operator and end up turning into a negotiator. So negotiators didn't have to get called out as much, but when they did get called out, sometimes we were a lot more restricted than the SWAT guys. SWAT guys, they could swap them out, take a break, stuff like that. We'd be sitting in the back of a van trying to talk to somebody, talk them into coming out. But it created challenges because, like, I'll give you an example. One Easter, my wife goes out and picks out the most beautiful dress for my daughter, who was like 1 year, like basically, I think she's only 6 months or 8 months old. And we were going to take her in this new dress to church for Easter Sunday. And like clockwork, I got called out as a negotiator the night before. And so we negotiated. There was a shooting and somebody died. And we managed to talk the guy to come out. So we finally got him and everything. And it was about 8 a.m. Well, I call her and she says, well, I've got to go because I got to go she had to teach Sunday school. And she said, as soon as you get here, I'll give you my daughter, and you can take off. And I'll take off. And I said, okay. So she gives me my daughter and she says, now make sure you put the new dress on her. Well, the problem was I didn't see what new dress she bought.
Oh,
so I went looking through these dresses and I picked the one I thought was the prettiest. And when I got to church, you would have thought they would have closed the doors and kicked me out because I didn't live that down for a whole month. And she was actually mad at me for a while, but she eventually forgave me. And it was just one of those things where sometimes work would kind of interfere with your family life, but you had to have an understanding. And I think we had an understanding that I know my job's kind of difficult at times, but when I'm not doing my job, I'm doing my best to be a husband and a father and do those things.
Yeah. And that's how it should be with any profession in a relationship. That's how I think. I did have that on my list to talk to you about your time as a negotiator. And how does that happen? Like, who gets selected? How do you get selected for that? Do you apply for it or volunteer for that? I say volunteer, obviously you get paid, but because not everybody's cut out to do that.
No,
I'm sure that's a really small list.
Now, SWAT as a whole encompasses, the operators, snipers, negotiators. So they put out a posting saying we need X number of this certain type of person: sniper, negotiator, operator. And then what you do is you go, you cut a letter, application letter saying this is why I would want to do this and this is what I can. And so you go do that. Then they interview you, and then like. For SWAT, you have to do a physical, you have to actually do a physical assessment because you have to be physically fit. But what was funny was you had to just go in front of a board for negotiators because they want to know if you could talk. Well, obviously, I don't have a problem with that. But the thing is I've been negotiating pretty much all my life, just didn't know it. And so I actually got talked into it because I'd gotten promoted from a detective, property crimes detective, to a sergeant in patrol. And being in SWAT, I would have been the same rank as the person who was over me. So I said, you know what? I can't do that. I'm going to leave. What was funny was they really needed negotiators so bad, they came and talked me into working with another sergeant. So we would have so I could fill another spot, and I did that for a couple of years until I'd done SWAT and negotiating for probably a grand total of about 7 years. And being on call, even as a negotiator, and being on call as a detective, and being on call as a SWAT operator, you always had to if you want to take vacation, you want to do anything, you have to get somebody to cover for you. So I just had gotten tired of being on call all the time. So I finally said, you know what, I'm just going to, and I'll just stop right here. But it was good. And I mean, I worked hard and there are good people involved in that. And you're right. Not everybody is fit for that. I think that's why when you look at SWAT, you have snipers, you have operators, you have negotiators. Your personality is going to determine, your personality and physical fitness is going to determine which one of those are best for you. If you just don't mind sitting on a building looking through a rifle scope, for like hours on end, That might be your job.
Right.
If you don't mind busting through a door and taking the chance somebody's going to shoot you, that might be your job. You sit in a van where everybody else been sitting there for hours and everybody stinks, and you're talking to them. That's maybe what you do.
Yeah, see, y'all, it's not glamorous. It's not what you see on the TV shows all the time. Did you ever do the sniper thing?
No, I didn't. What's funny about me is when I first became a police officer, I'm really left-handed. But when I was growing up back in the day, anybody's left-handed. If you didn't, you made sure.
I have that same story.
Well, my parents, they try to make you right-handed. Well,
I have that same story, Mark. Yeah.
So, but I shot pistol right-handed, but I shot long guns left-handed. So the thing is when I actually became an operator, they had to teach me how to shoot right-handed, how to shoot right-handed on a long gun, which I could do fine. I mean, I was above average with that. But if I shot left-handed, I was like right spot on. But I would have had to shoot right-handed all the time as a sniper. At that point in time, that was the rule. Because if we went anywhere in a line or together, they want to make sure all the guns were on a certain side.
Correct. So logistically, that makes sense.
Yeah. So anyway, no, I didn't ever think about that. And actually, I didn't mind the fact of busting doors. The only thing is I didn't realize I was going to be the guy that had the pry bar up there. And really, what gets really interesting is when you go to pry that metal screen door open, and you have that in there, and you're trying not to make any noise, and it just squeaks a little bit, and then you hear this. On the other side of the door. Yeah. Then it's probably time to pop that thing open, let somebody hit it, and let somebody go through it who has a gun before you can get your gun.
Gosh. Again, we learned some about that last week, talking about, the pros and cons of where you are in the line of people SWAT, where you are in the line going through the door. And it just so eye-opening for me. Yeah. So
well, I would pop the door open, and then I was actually the last guy in the door because I popped the door open and hold it.
Oh, okay.
While all the guys with the shield and the weapons would go ahead of me, and I would normally end up having to watch all the people that they put on the floor in the living room. So I would have to be like security for the living area.
But and even so, like you described, when you're trying to start that process of getting that door open, and I never even thought of that, how you would hear. And I'm sure it would be unnerving enough just to hear someone's talking inside or moving around. But to hear the cock of a shotgun or something, I hadn't thought about that. And if I did know that you were born left-handed, I forgot. I've shared my story before that I just felt so defective as a little girl because notes would go home from school every day about how Kathy can't remember which hand to use for the scissors or the crayons or the whatever it was. And I'm thinking, why am I having so much trouble? It was so natural. And I shoot, I can shoot right or left-handed, but I am a much better aim left-handed.
Yep.
And I'm a switch hitter. I'm a switch hitter in softball. I learned piano really quickly, I think, because I had to learn to use my right hand, and my left hand could already do what it needed to do. So it's come in handy, but I didn't even think about how, if you've got guys lined up with weapons, you don't want one guy accidentally causing the.
You don't want somebody on the opposite side because they go to swing it over, and next thing you know, they shoot somebody that they shouldn't.
Friendly fire. Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's fascinating. So right now, and I asked you yesterday, have you received any calls from Arlington to help with the World Series?
No, and I reached out to my sergeant today, and he still hasn't. They usually get a very last-minute phone call, maybe sometimes from the traffic guys wanting them to use our motors to do escorts, escort people either to or from the ballpark, that kind of thing. But usually Arlington has a stock group of people that they use their own folks to begin with, and they have constables and they have sheriff's deputies and that kind of stuff. So the only thing that they would use us for, and it's what Jerry Jones has used us for before, is doing the actual escorts, like if somebody's a VIP or maybe it's a bus with the team, that kind of stuff.
Okay. So have you met very many or any famous people in your career? I know you're going to say yes, but can you tell us anybody you've met that was either famous at the time or they're still famous now?
Well, to be honest with you, I met more famous people when I worked at Six Flags. I actually, when I was in operations in charge of ride supervisors, I walked Billy Idol around. I walked a group called the Fix around. I actually got to interact with some of the country stars, and the thing is being here, I really, I can tell you that we worked on a detail where when Trump and Pence came into Love Field, we helped Dallas do the escort all the way. I mean, we didn't actually escort, but we had to hold a whole neighborhood for safety's sake for them to get in when they were coming to visit.
Okay.
And so I didn't ever get a chance to meet them or anything. I was about maybe 10 feet from them at one point. That's as close as I ever got. But in any case, it was a lot of fun. All the famous people I know are just local I mean, they're not even, nobody would think they're famous. They're local people. They're the people that run, the things around here. But I mean, I'm pretty happy with it.
And overall, so how do you feel like, I think you touched on it in the beginning of the show, but your time at Six Flags, you feel like was great preparation for what you're doing now. And I know when you told me that even yesterday, I just thought, wow, what a neat connection to be able to make.
Yeah, I mean, what's funny about it is that I got a job just to make some money. And I'm going to tell you, this is going to really date me because 77, I was making $2.75 an hour. And that was actually a quarter more than the minimum wage.
Good money, yeah.
Yeah, but like us in food service made a quarter more. Everybody else who worked out there made under the minimum wage because they were seasonal. But anyway, I just want to get a job, so I didn't care. So I signed up for any job. Well, you don't go into something saying, I mean, there are a lot of good professions out there, a lot of things that you can learn from like retail or food service or things like that, and some of my most favorite people in this world, and I'm serious about this, are janitors, because they see what people do and they make it look better. Yeah. And of course, I didn't even think about that until I was doing it. And I got a chance to, sweep and clean up where people go on rides, they get sick and stuff. I had to clean tables and all that stuff. But, we were like the lowest form of life out there. And yet we had more contact with the public than everybody else did because we were free to walk around with a broom and a pan. And people would actually, not think twice, talk to us about different stuff. And so, I mean, it gave me a chance to interact with people and to learn how to talk to people and how to treat people. And I think it was like, I'll be honest with you, my 14 years at Six Flags, I learned probably more about how to deal with people, how to manage people. I mean, and not just manage people, but lead people. Yeah. Because I used to tell people this all the time, when I worked in 1980, which was the hottest summer, at one point was the hottest summer on record, I worked in the tower area where we worked in cowboy hats and cowboy boots because it was like the 60th anniversary or something like that. Yeah. And like we wore jeans, okay, and it was like 110, 115 a day. If you as a supervisor could talk to some 16-year-old kid into sweeping and cleaning up vomit and everything else and work in that heat for like 8 or 9 or 10 hours a day, if you could, and they weren't making a bunch of money. Yeah. And you didn't get any benefits, you didn't work, you didn't get paid. So all this stuff is against it. But if you got them to come back that next day, you were a good supervisor. You were a good manager because you could actually relate in some way to these kids and say, hey, I understand where you're coming from. And these are the things I can do to make your job better. So anyway, I just know that things have changed a lot over the years with Six Flags and all that, because I still have people that I know that work there, that have worked there. But the Six Flags back then was what really did it for me. I'm just very fortunate. I had that opportunity to grow out there.
And so, do I know your wife? Is she somebody I would know?
She was in games and attractions for many years, and then she went to retail as a retail office manager for a while. I don't know. I mean, did you work out there?
No, never did.
No,
I don't know why. It seems like everybody we knew growing up worked out there, but I didn't.
Bad news. She didn't go to Sam. She went to Lamar. So I had to put up with that. Okay. But that's okay. What's funny about it is I went to Sam, my wife went to Lamar, my son went to Bowie, and my daughter went to Seguin. So none of us had the same high school.
Oh, it's covered. Yeah, it's covered. You covered all of it then.
Yeah.
And so holiday stuff coming up for the holidays because I want to move on too and talk about your kids now and what your kids are planning to do, only because again, part of what I want people to understand is, thank you, Texas born and raised. Thank you for that. There's a thank you for you, Mark, in this super chat here.
Thank you, Texas born and raised.
I want to help people understand again, police officers are family people. There are people that they love, that they take care of, that even if the firsthand experience, I might have had or someone else might have given them the impression that they're not friendly or they're not caring, or they are, and they have legacies that they leave behind through their families and their children. And I kind of wanted to talk about that with you because I don't guess you don't come from a family of law enforcement officers, right?
No. Fun fact, my father is from New York, and he was first generation American. His parents were from Sicily and Italy. And all I can tell you about that side of the family was they were on the other side of the law.
Oh.
Yeah. So I have some history back in New York where some of my more distant relatives were actually involved with some of the special families, we'll call them, in New York. Matter of fact, my dad growing up said you had three choices when you grew up. You either joined a gang or a family, or you became a cop or went in the military, or you became a priest. I guess that's four.
Oh, okay.
So the thing is, he decided he would be military. So at 17, he joined the Air Force and ended up in Texas. But anyway, when I told him I was going to be a cop, he was just like beside himself because he worked at Vought out here in Grand Prairie, and we used to complain about the Grand Prairie cops all the time. And he would say that him and his buddies would go out drinking after they get off of work, and those knuckle draggers would, beat one of his friends up and throw him in jail. And so when I told him I was going to get a job at Grand Prairie, he just shook his head and he goes, "Are you sure about that?" And I go, "Yeah." I go, "It's not what you think it is." And so he said, "Okay." And he was kind of hesitant, but he supported me ever since. But it's one of those things where he had worked for Vought for like decades. He started out there in the 60s, helping them build planes for Vietnam. And then over the years, he actually worked his way up from like just being a regular guy to like an executive position. And he was working like in an office. They would go out and purchase the machines that they used to make the plane parts and stuff. So he had done like at least 25 or 30 years out there, and then he retired. But the rest of my family have done different things. And one of the fun things about it is I'm very proud of one of my nieces. My cousins, well, actually I say niece, my second cousin, one of my cousins had a daughter that she is a law enforcement officer in a county west of here. Oh. And I'm really, really proud of her. She's on social media all the time. She's doing stuff with like rescue of dogs. Uh-huh. And she's doing all the community stuff. And I just always applaud her for, doing that stuff. And so I actually have somebody else in my family who's in law enforcement. I'm very proud of her. So
Nice. I did want to say some hellos to some people I missed when they came in. Dark Lord Minute, I did see you. I put your little note on the screen just so hopefully you know I'd see you. Hello, Horse Around Farms. Thank you for being here today. If you're just now popping in, my guest is a high school friend of mine, Lieutenant Marc Taddonio. He is a lieutenant in the Grand Prairie, Texas Police Department, and we're just getting an even better picture of who is behind these badges and who's inside of these uniforms that you see when you encounter law enforcement officers in your daily lives. Because my goal is to remind people that they are people too, and they have dreams and they have hang-ups and they have expectations and fears and families and hobbies and talents, and they're not just about trying to make your day miserable or give you a hard time or make you feel bad or earn money for the city. That's not what it's about. There are some like that. Mark's already pointed out there are some cops that shouldn't be cops. But I have really tried to introduce you to some officers who are in it or were in it for the right reasons. They wanted to make a difference. They wanted to maybe change somebody's trajectory or give somebody a different perspective on what law enforcement is about, or on the choices that they're making, you know, the way they're driving or the behaviors they're engaging in. And I'm just, you've just been such a great example of that. So my brain is still holding on to the images of you with was it your sergeant? Who was it that prayed with that lady?
Oh, it was my FTO.
Your FTO, field training officer. And I love that that's just lingering in my head. Through everything you're saying, I have a picture of that in my head, and it gives me goosebumps. It gives me goosebumps to think of that, because even though, again, I know you represent the vast majority of officers out there, I don't even get to hear enough of those stories. I don't get to hear enough of those stories. And so when I see the news stories of the maybe poor decisions that an officer made somewhere, or watch a video on YouTube of an officer that's over the top and has forgotten what his mission really should be, I have to remind myself that that's not that one bad apple. The bad apple, don't let it spoil the whole bunch, because I've known police officers enough in my life to just know that's not what they're like. You know, don't base your opinion on this guy. This guy shouldn't be doing what he's doing anyway, if that's really how he thinks he's supposed to do it. But so I wanted to talk about your kids, because I didn't think you had it came from a long line of police officers or anything, and neither of your kids is going into law enforcement, though your son is going to do a law related thing. And so I thought it would be fun to share, you know, again, the legacy you're going to leave behind through your children, because I'm really impressed with how you obviously did manage to find a way around the demands of your job, the last minute calls because you're on call all the time, and the having to hand off the baby to somebody because you've got to be breaking down somebody's door or whatever it is you might have to do, or talking somebody off of a ledge, and the successes that your children are having, to me, proves that. Now, I'm sure your wife had to do a stellar job a lot of times of stuff on her own and figure things out, or call her parents, or call your parents, or sometimes say, help, Mark just had to leave and I've got this and the baby's sick, or whatever. And so kudos to her for that, because I don't know that there's enough credit given to the families and the spouses for having to really step up a lot of times and almost be single parents, at least early in a career for a police officer, when he doesn't have a lot of seniority. You know, you're low man on the totem pole. You already said when you started out, you were doing that third shift, that like midnight to whatever shift. And I'm just thinking back to when I had babies, and, you know, the middle of the night stuff, and already being so tired all the time. And so I can sympathize with her, knowing that just meant a lot of nights where you couldn't be there You couldn't be there to rock the baby. Oh, can you please go rock him to sleep, honey? I'm so tired. Nope, couldn't do it. You can't. You can't do it. So kudos to her, but kudos to you, because again, through what I know about your kids, I just know that you figured out how to make it work, and that what you said earlier, that even though you couldn't be there all the time, your work was very demanding and you had to be away from your family, you made sure to give it your all every moment that you were with your family. And I think your kids are showing that. So I'd love for you to tell us a little bit about your kids and where they are in their lives, what they're doing, what's coming up for them.
Well, it's my favorite. It's actually my favorite subject. You're in trouble now. My kids are my world. First of all, let me also back up a minute and say kudos to my wife. She obviously did so much as well. I didn't tell you this, but she is a teacher.
Okay.
She didn't start out being a teacher. She became a teacher only after we had kids. She was actually a recruiter, a nationwide recruiter for a major restaurant chain for a long time. And so she decided to become a teacher once we started having kids. One of my favorite memories about her was when I was leaving at night, fixing to go to work, I'd go in to say goodbye, and she would be reading books to them. And I would read when I was my days off or I wasn't going to work, I would read the books. But she way outdid me in reading books. And because of that fact, both my kids today as adults are readers. They read all the time. But my son, he did great in high school. He played football and baseball at a varsity level for even from his sophomore years through his senior year. When it came time to go to college, he wanted to play baseball in college. He didn't get the offers that he wanted from the D1 schools, but he got an offer that he liked from a school in Nebraska, Midland University in Nebraska, and he went to play baseball for them. And so it made for a 10-hour trip whenever I want to go watch him play doubleheaders or a game when I could do it, but it was well worth it. But he's a solid guy. He's like 6'3", blonde hair and hazel eyes. He's got better looks, much better looks, and he's very much more smarter than his dad. So, he actually gave it up in his senior year so he could concentrate on his GPA so he could go to law school. And so he came out with a 3.75 and he did a pretty good grade on the LSAT. But he didn't get the offers. He wanted to put him for George Washington, for Florida State, for other places, and he didn't get the offers he wanted. So he actually found a place called Vermont Law in South Royalton, Vermont, where they were the third best environmental school in the law school in the nation. And he went up there, and he's never afraid to go out on his own or do things on his own. And he ended up graduating there, and now he is he's an attorney, but he works as a clerk for a state appellate court in Nebraska. And he's in the process of trying to find another job, and he's applying for to other jobs in the state of Nebraska, but he's also for the Justice Department. He's put in some application for the Justice Department, and I'm confident he's going to get something he likes.
Oh yeah.
And my daughter, she was like him. Both of them were honor students when they were in school. She played varsity soccer from when she was sophomore, and she was in theater. So she had a whole different way of looking at things. And she gave up everything but theater in her senior year to concentrate on her grades, because she was accepted at we went on a trip. She loves animals, so we went on a trip. Went to Oklahoma State, Colorado State, went to Tarleton, went to a bunch of places to check out schools. Her junior year and during spring break, but she had focused on one school that she really wanted to go to, is Texas A&M. And so she wanted to be a vet, so she's tried to go through that program. But it's really harder to be a vet than it is to be a doctor. And really, it just didn't work out for her. But she is now focusing on working with animals at zoos. She's going to graduate in December with a
Yeah, listen to this, y'all. My homestead community, y'all will get a kick out of this.
Okay.
Listen to what her degree is.
She's got a double major. Her double major is poultry science.
Poultry science.
And animal science. And she loves animals. So she's going to do great at whatever she ends up. She's also doing research now with one of the professors there. So she's getting a little bit of her hand in that. So she's looking to work at a zoo or a rescue. So she's very happy about that. But also she gets married in June because she met a young man in the Air Force. He's a good guy. He actually is stationed in Florida, and they're not far from Cocoa Beach. And he's already bought him a house, and so she'll move up there for the spring, and then she'll come back to get married here in June. And then once she gets married in June, I don't have any more kids on my payroll.
Yeah.
but I'll be paying for a wedding.
Yeah, you might. Yeah, I don't know which one comes out a little cheaper or not.
But I'm very proud of them. I'm very lucky and blessed. I also have to mention that we've done a lot with our church too. My kids have been on multiple mission trips.
Nice.
And so it gave them a chance to also see that how blessed and lucky they are, and how it's really important to give, to take the blessings that you have and pass them on.
Yeah.
So they're both very giving people as well.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, I almost got mad at them when they were moving from one place to the other to give a TV away or something else away because somebody didn't have one.
So what would you say, and maybe the list is too long, what are the best parts of being a police officer?
Best part of being a police officer is being able to help somebody. And that includes, that's such a big range and everything.
Yeah.
But, I'll tell you that it's everything from finding that family that's out on the highway in the middle of the night that ran out of gas and has no money, to getting them a gas and then going to the teller machine and getting like $50 out, or getting with two other police officers and all of us chipping in to get them a room.
Yeah.
The thing is, you always were excited about those chasing people and tackling them. And, you watch Cops and you'd say, wow, I wish that was me on Cops, because, I'm on TV and all that. And I have friends, actually I have friends from Fort Worth that were on Cops.
Uh-huh.
Well, it's a lot of fun when we talk about stuff, but the thing is all the excitement and everything. It was fun. The adrenaline dump was fun, but when we were able to do something, like we find some guy in the middle of summer when it's over 100 degrees every day and he doesn't have an air conditioner in his house, and he's actually begging people to bring him ice just so he doesn't die, then you find somebody who's willing to, we found a person who's willing to buy an air conditioner. We found another person who's willing to install it. And then when you see the guy sitting there, like a week later, and he's not just, full of sweat, and, you worry about it because like 80 years old, those things, people don't see those things. And we have opportunities every day to interact with people and interact in an environment where we see the best and we see the worst. And it's like I told you the other day, there's memories out there. There's a lot that I hope I never forget. And there's ones out there I wish I could forget, but I can't. And the ones that I love to remember are the ones that, like what I'm talking about. And even like I said before with the recruit story, when I was in training, that woman that we prayed with that night, she was almost a victim of a serial killer later, years later. And that's nothing people don't know about. Sometimes we have those folks around us, but they don't make the news because they don't kill the right people.
Yeah.
And there was a guy that was out there killing hookers probably about 25 years ago. And he had actually killed 3 or 4 in the area, and he almost killed her. She got away.
Oh,
and what was sad about it was she was in the hospital for a long time because it was pretty bad. And she made it out of the hospital. And I was really happy to hear that when she got out of the hospital, when she was there, she got help from some of the charitable organizations that are around us out here. And they found her a place to stay, and they found her a job, and she stopped doing that.
Oh,
But
wow.
that profession was what almost killed her because he was looking for
Yeah.
prostitutes. But
Yeah.
anyway, those things, you remember those things and you see those things. My thing is that if I can change one person's opinion of what we do, I mean, it's a win for me because yes, there's been some bad stuff on the TV about what happens with cops and what they do, but it's just if you knew that there's hundreds of thousands of contacts every day, and out of those hundreds of thousands of contacts with police every day, the vast majority of them are positive.
Yeah.
It's just that no one in the media can make any money off of anything that's positive.
Yep.
It has to be shocking. It has to be eye-catching and controversial, and those things are what make money.
Yep.
And my thing is that there's a lot of young men and women out here that have come to this profession, and I'm excited for them. They're actually much better than I ever was. They communicate better. They're smarter. They're better fit. And they're more diverse. Than we had. And the fact of the matter is I look at them and I'm like, I can retire anytime and feel confident that whatever the mission is right now is to be carried on. And we, as a police department here, want to improve the quality of life of the people who live here. And so one of the things we also are very much into is our community engagement. And that's something I do a lot with. And I mean, honestly, some of my best friends are people that you would never, the people I get along with the best here would be, you'd look at it in the media 3 or 4 years ago and say, oh, you got to be kidding. That's a joke. But I mean, I work very closely with people from everywhere, from the president of the NAACP to folks that are very much in high levels for the Black Lives Matter project. I also work with ASE, which is the Hispanic Arts and Culture group that they put on parades and shows. And I even work with Asia Times Square on Lunar New Year and Mid-Autumn Festival. And we share everybody's cultures with other people. And when we work together, matter of fact, like Asia Times Square, they bring in mariachi and folklorico dancers because their folks are not used to seeing those things. And we bring in other groups, their stuff, to the other things that we do. And it's just, I think as a whole, we get along a lot better because we understand we're all different, but we're all human beings.
Yeah.
And we're all just trying to make it from today to tomorrow and be happy.
Yeah. And I wanted to say hi to Julie and Andy at Urban American Homestead. And they had posted this in the chat. Congratulations. And I think it was probably related to you saying that your daughter will be getting married next summer. But I didn't see the comment in time to put it up when it happened. So
thank you.
So that's from them. And flip side of that, and I don't know how much you can tell us, but what's the worst part of being a police officer?
The worst part for me is when you try so hard to help somebody and you can't. That's it's more of a gut punch than you get from just flat out failing. If you can just fail, you say, well, you can write that off. That's me. But if you've done everything and they've done everything they can, and yet it's not any better, that's probably the hardest thing. I will tell you, of course, there's, like I said before, there's memories I'd love to forget. You empathize, sympathize, you accept people's grief. I told you this the other day, from the woman who slept in a bed with her infant child because they didn't have a crib, and she rolled over in the night and the baby suffocated, and you have to deal with that. You're the first guy there, as I was, to deal with that. Or you end up going to the house where somebody called in that their 5-year-old didn't wake up, and when you see the kid and he's been beat up, and it's because the boyfriend was there with him while the mother went out for her first night in a long time. Those things, you don't forget those things. I wish I could, but those are the things that are the heartbreaks, the things that you wish you could forget. But unfortunately for us, I mean, I have the greatest respect for all the military guys out there. I mean, honestly, my dad was one. My son-in-law's one. I didn't do that, but hey, I'm doing the cop thing. But I'm telling you, those folks that are in the military, they have a lot to put up with. And then, you know, you hear all the stories about PTSD and all that, and it is real. It is real for them as it is for any, you know, any of those guys. Sometimes they don't even have to go any place to get it. They just have to be some certain place.
Yeah.
But I will tell you that the cops out there, it's what I call a slow burn. You know, you accumulate all these things over the years, the visions of what you see out there as far as people that have mistreated other people. You know, you go to try to help some woman who's been almost beat to death. And then when you go to try to rescue the husband, she's hitting you in the back of the head with something that she found because she don't want you to take him.
Yeah.
And those things are the things that I think are the worst part of what I do. But what I do with that stuff is I pack it all together and I put it over here and I open up that box that I have for all the good memories. And I always make sure that those memories, you know, I push them away. I open the box later and let them fly out and go someplace else. But I keep the good ones because every once in a while you need to sit down and have, you know, and think about the good things that have happened.
Nice. I'm wondering, is that a body cam I see right in the middle of you there?
Yeah, it's actually off.
Okay.
But in Grand Prairie, anybody who's in an enforcement role, as far as like uniform enforcement role, we all have to wear them. And so what we do is anytime we're just going someplace on a call or whatever, they have to be on. Now, as far as recording, there's some different rules about us recording, and we also turn them off when we go in somebody's house to talk to them for privacy reasons.
Okay, right.
But the thing, we put them to sleep. There's a sleep button on there, so we put them to sleep. That way, in case you have to wake them up all of a sudden, they'll wake up. You know?
So, but that means you've seen a huge change in law enforcement in your career, because those didn't used to exist. So what was that transition like? My thinking, this will date me. When I started out in the healthcare field, there was a day, y'all, when we weren't required to wear gloves and masks and eye protection and all of that. Now, it made sense to do it, and if you had any common sense, you would do it, but it wasn't required. And I remember how stressful it was when OSHA came on the scene, and then it was required. You have to wear gloves, you have to have a mask on, and you have to record if you ever accidentally poke yourself with a needle or poke yourself with a scalpel. You have to record it. Who was the patient? What day did it happen? And we just thought the world was going to end. I was convinced I would never be able to feel that. A lot of things you do in healthcare, you rely on tactile sensitivity. You can tell tension in areas it was so stressful. It was so annoying and it was so stressful. And I, in my mind, am imagining that there may have been like a similar shift from no body cams or whatever that concept is called, surveillance, whatever that's called, to now you got to wear them every time you're out. You got to remember to turn it on every time you, I don't know, get out of your car, whatever the rule is.
Yeah.
And I would love for you to share, what was that like? Because again, in my mind, I'm thinking it had to have been a real bumpy ride.
Well, let me take one more step backwards. In-car video. When I first got here, there was no in-car video. That nobody knew about that stuff. It came out like in the mid 90s, and everybody was sitting there going, "Oh my God, Big Brother, they're going to be watching us, and they're going to do this. They're going to nitpick what we're doing and all that stuff." And there were guys out there that they were saying, "I'm just going to retire. I'm going to quit if they make me put a camera in my car." Well, what's funny about it is, and this is really pretty neat. I wish I would have taken some of they're VCRs, right? They're like VHS tapes that you would be on there. But I'm sure you've heard of the Amber Alert. Mm-hmm. And what's funny about that is a very little known fact is myself as an FTO and my rookie were the very first people to apprehend anyone for the very first Amber Alert. It was a girl. It was a child from Arlington. Baby.
And that happened down the street. Well, in my neighborhood, pretty much. I had kids already. That happened.
So we got the word that morning. We worked overnight, and we were at Great Southwest and I-20, and they gave a description of the vehicle and everything. And I looked and I saw it driving, and I told him, let's go get them. And we actually pulled the lady over on 360 between Mayfield and Arkansas. And of course, they called Arlington. Yeah. And because we were actually, it's like shift change. We didn't have anybody close to back us up. So we both walked up to the car slowly. You could see the baby in the car seat. And we asked her to step out. And you could tell she was really nervous. What we were afraid of was that she would actually hit the gas and take off. Uh-huh. But we were able to negotiate. I let him watch the baby and I talked to her, and we negotiated her out of that car. And then by the time we had gotten her in handcuffs, Arlington showed up like the Rose Parade. There were like 10 units showing up. And what was funny was, we were laughing about this later, the news showed up too, because they were scanning. So one of the news channels out there, they were filming the whole thing. So when they showed it on the news that night, I go, hey, y'all watch the news. You're going to see a Grand Prairie car way in the back, and then you see all these guys from Arlington giving high fives to each other. Yeah. And it's like, but I wish I would have kept that videotape. But that videotape at the time would have been very important, because I don't know if they were really, if they found her competent to stand trial or not, but if they would have had to go to trial, they would have used that tape would have been it. Uh-huh. And so it would have been that important. So when we did that, I was like, there's an importance.
Maybe they could be okay. Yeah.
But then you go down the road, and then things turn digital, and we started talking about body cams. And one of the very first things again was people say, I don't want to do it, and I'm going to retire, I'm going to quit. They're not making me wear a camera, and they're just trying to find something to get on, to get me with, And so, but everybody complains, and then when it happens, the complaining goes dun, 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 until you don't hear it anymore. And then you start thinking, well, actually it's a benefit, because there are people who make complaints on cops all the time. And I'm going to tell you, some of the complaints are valid, and then some complaints are not even close to valid. And so I always enjoy the fact that when I have it on, I tell people all the time, I own anything I do. If I did it, I'll own it.
Right.
I mean, that's what I'm going to do. I'm not trying to get out of it.
Body camera or not.
Right.
Yeah.
But the body camera actually is a great backup, because it's telling the story that I can't tell.
Yep.
It's a third person story.
Yep.
And but I will caution people, as far as sometimes these are not activated as quickly as they probably should be. So just like when people are filming stuff on their phone, people always have their phones out, watching the cop beat up somebody, but they didn't show how
what happened. Yeah, before.
They didn't know what happened before, like he attacked the cop.
You don't know he shot at him. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but the nice things about some of these are they have a 30-second capture, where once you start hitting the button, it'll actually go back 30 seconds and save it.
So it was really recording,
but not
before you hit the button. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So, but there's no audio to it. That's the catch.
Still, yeah.
But what's funny is that's actually saved some people before, who have been dealing with somebody who got out of hand and didn't hit the camera fast enough, but you could see from the actions that were going on that what had really happened. So it kind of saved them.
Yeah.
But nowadays, people look at it as an extra appendage. I mean, we all just assume we're going to be putting them on, and nobody wants to be that guy that ends up not turning it on when he should have. And then all of a sudden there's all controversy breaks loose. And so everybody pretty much has accepted it. And as a matter of fact, now you got all these new police officers coming in that expect it.
Yep. So did you realize that Grand Prairie Police has a YouTube channel?
Yeah, I do. Okay. Yeah.
Matter of fact, I didn't think to ask you about that when we were setting it up, and then I started looking today, because I thought
we also have a podcast.
Where is that? When is that?
It's like once a week kind of thing. They've got a podcast out there. I tell you what, next time they send the stuff out to us to watch. Next, I'll forward you the link.
Yeah, and I'll pass that along. But
Yeah.
I only asked, and so in the description for today's stream, guys, I have links for the Grand Prairie Police YouTube channel, their Facebook page,
and their website address. Again, just if you're curious, you want to know more about the city or what the police officers are doing, community outreach, things like that. You can check that out. I also have a link for the NOLA Footwork Facebook page. I thought that was kind of neat because you can keep track of the great things they're doing. A lot of good work coming out of that. And I just think that's such a neat story. I mean, who would have thought that because of that tragedy of Hurricane Katrina, there would then be created this community of transplants who decided to call Texas home, but want to hold on to the best parts of who they were in the New Orleans area, the things they did for each other. That's a tight-knit community there. That's
It is.
Give you the shirt off your back kind of community down there. And that's what it sounds like they're doing now through this organization they have created. And so I've got links for all of that, but yeah, you can send me podcast links and info and I'll share those as well. I didn't know that, but again, it didn't even occur to me.
Let me say this. Podcasts for police departments now are the soup du jour. I mean, it is now the thing. It's the thing to do because it's a recruiting tool. And so everybody and their brother is putting together some kind of a podcast somewhere. So everybody's going to have them. And we've even created a whole room just for that. It was funny. Yeah. So, but see, the thing is they know I talk too much, so they're not going to ask me to do anything.
No, they'll need you one day. You know that.
Maybe.
What can you share if there's someone out watching this show today that's interested in getting into law enforcement? Maybe some young kid working at Six Flags or gonna be getting out of college or not sure what he wants to do with a career. What's the best advice, or what can you guide them?
If you really want to work with people and try to help people, I mean, and sometimes it's not that glamorous when you have to fight with people and handcuff people and take them to jail.
Yeah.
If you have any interest in law enforcement, what I would suggest that they do is at their local police department or wherever they live, if it's a local sheriff's department, that they go out and do a ride-along.
Yeah.
First of all, you go out and ride along. And if you don't go on a ride along in the middle of a Sunday afternoon, go for a ride along on a Friday or Saturday night.
Oh gosh.
Find out what their busy times are and go see what it's really like. But go with a ride along, talk to those guys and ask, pick their brains, find out, if you're interested. Now, most police departments today still require some college education. Some of them require a number of hours. Some of them require a whole degree. Ours is a degree right now, but there's a catch. You can either go in the military, and once you get out of the military, they waive that.
Right.
Or you can work for us for 2 years in a different position, and they waive it. Like a lot of our folks will come through the jail. Some of our guys will work in detention for a couple of years, and then they'll apply and become police officers.
Oh, okay.
So there's a few different avenues to go, but there are also a lot of police departments out there that are really hurting bad, and they have taken the college requirement out.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, and I have let me say this, I didn't have a college requirement when I came in, even though I had college. There were people I worked with that had college degrees and didn't. I think it's nice to have, and it shows that if you start something, you're going to finish something. Yeah. But I think in the end, you can be just as good without it.
Yeah.
As long as it just depends on what's in here.
Yeah.
And that's the thing too, is you have to be able to communicate. You have to be able to be physically fit. Because today there are so many other demands on police other than just like writing tickets and taking reports.
Yeah.
We function in many, many roles that we're not supposed to, like mental health. As a matter of fact, I'm a mental health peace officer. I had to go to a 40-hour class to learn the basics about that and try to identify people who are autistic or bipolar or some of the other issues that are out there. Now, some of those things are different. Some of them are mental, some of them are other things. But I actually went to a class called Autism 101, which for police, just so I can try to identify people with autism. But the thing is, we're put in positions to where we're a counselor, we're a teacher, we're a law enforcer, we're a sympathizer, all kinds of stuff. And I don't complain about it, but some people are not fit. Some people are not cut out to do more than one thing or do multiple things. And if you're good at talking with people and you really want to help people and you don't mind occasionally having to put somebody in jail that really needs to be there, then this is a great career. And depending on where you go and they treat you and how they treat you, I wouldn't have been here for 31 and a half years unless.
There's got to be, it's got to be.
It was good for me. And I will tell you this, these bars, they could have been stars a long time ago. But one of the things I'll tell people too, when they decide to make that jump, if they've got kids, take care of your kids. It may cost you may cost the stars for the bars, but the problem is you look at what, people that are successful police officers that have successful families, they sacrifice, that upward mobility a little bit, but that's okay. Because guess what? You have a couple of more people out there that are good people in the world. They're going to make it better.
Yep.
And I will tell you that I've seen the other side of that, where I've seen cops that I've chased their kids around in the middle of the night, stolen cars. And the thing is that's embarrassing to them.
Yeah.
And it never ends well.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, as I say, if you're going to be a cop, make sure that there's a balance there. Yeah. You have to try to balance your private life or your home life with your professional life. And if you can balance it just right, it's a great career and you can do some good things. You can be happy. You'd be a happy person. But if you can't balance those things, you might find another occupation.
Do you feel like it was to your advantage then that you became an officer, like not fresh faced? You were a grown up. You'd already done another career pretty much, 14 years at Six Flags.
Yep.
Maybe people don't, for me, I always thought of Six Flags like a summer job, and I just always had another job, so I didn't need to work at Six Flags. But my first husband was in cash control for Six Flags. He worked there almost 15 years or so. Before we met, he was already finished with it by then. But do you feel like that was an advantage? Because I would think that was an advantage. You were already married, so you already had the ability to understand that you are responsible for providing for someone else and protecting someone else. And not to say that a young person right out of college or something couldn't do it, but I would think there would be so many advantages to I don't want to say older, because if you were, 30, 31-ish, whatever you might have been at the time, I wouldn't call that old by today's standards for sure, but you were grown up. You had already figured out your way in the world and sown your wild oats or whatever you wanted to call it.
2 words, life experience.
Okay. Yeah.
College is great. And we get guys that come straight out of college and they may have had a part-time job somewhere. They may have had a full-time job somewhere, but their main job was to get a degree. And as soon as they get out of school, they're ready. They're ready to hit the law enforcement pavement. And some of those guys are great. They have the personality to begin with. They didn't need it. But there's some people actually need to go out there. I mean, I've worked with guys that were managers at Taco Bell before they did this. They were like shoe salesmen before they did this. I mean, we have a guy who works for us right now. He was a chiropractor. And you would think chiropractor, man, that's cool, and he didn't like it. So he came to us. And of course, for the first few years he was here and trying to make friends with everybody, he'd give a couple of adjustments now and then, But anyway, the thing is you can't trade. I mean, there's no value you can give life experience that actually does it credit. It gives it credit because all that's time that I worked at Six Flags when there were some weeks I'd work 80 hours and I still didn't get paid. They didn't have overtime,
Yeah,
and they didn't have
yeah.
so you work 80 hours, you got 80 hours straight pay,
Yeah.
and you were tired as heck, but you had to be back, you
Yeah.
know. And the thing is the people you meet, the experiences you have, they shape you as a person. And I think you're right. I think that when it comes down to it, you know, I'd already bought my first car and paid for my first car. I'd bought a house and I was making payments. I was married. I was talking about having kids. I had anchor. I had an anchor.
Yeah.
And so, and I'm not talking about a weight around my neck in the middle of the lake.
No.
I'm talking about anchor to where
A foundation.
a foundation. So.
And I wanted also, because we talked about this yesterday, and I think I talked about it at the very beginning of the show. You told me yesterday when I pointed out that I've watched all these police chase videos and DUI arrest videos and stuff, and I'm always amazed at all the stuff in the cars. and so one thing you said to me yesterday was, well, my car's my office. So when I'm out, my car is my office, and I got to do paperwork, and I got to be prepared for a traffic incident or a first aid need or something. But I have just been amazed anytime I've watched a video where the officer goes to his trunk, has to get something out of his trunk, and there's like a whole city worth of stuff in the trunk of the car.
Yep.
And I just thought it might be interesting if you shared with us, like, what kind of stuff does your everyday patrol officer that has to be in his car for however many hours of his shift every day, what kind of stuff, what's the stuff he carries around, and when might he need it? And have you ever been without something in your car that you needed it and you thought, oh man, I forgot to put that in, or I forgot to put that back in, or
well, I'll tell you something about that. It only takes one time.
Yeah.
And then the next time you have it.
Yeah.
And sometimes you may have it for years before you use it.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you that a lot of these guys nowadays, okay, first of all, we do 12-hour shifts. So we either do 3 in a row or 4 in a row. And it could be like 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. or 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. So if you're spending that much time in your car, which you probably will be, at least most of it, you're going to have, you have a bag in there that has like, you have like extra clothing in case it gets cold. You have a rain jacket in case, you have rain gear. You have cones. You have flares. You have, these are standard things that everybody would have, pretty much should have. You have cones, flares, and you'll have you'll have crime scene tape. And then, because you never know what's going to happen. And then those are like and a first aid kit. Those are kind of standard things. But then people start getting creative, and they'll have a whole second uniform in there, because you may end up going into a house that has fleas or lice or something like that.
Right.
And you may end up having to take a family, kids out of a house like that doesn't have running water and all that. And then you don't want to track that stuff back home.
Right.
So you'll find some place that you have some privacy to go to, take that uniform off, put it in a plastic bag until you can get it somewhere to where you can look at it or fumigate it.
Contaminate it, yeah.
Yeah, so that's one thing. Also, like if you go to a place that has parvo, you may have a second set of boots in your car because you don't want to track the parvo back to your.
Lives in the ground, yeah. Oh gosh.
Yeah. So anyway, those are some of the things. Like I knew guys that carried bleach of all things to clean up, because they were like that worried that they would catch something. But I would have a bag that usually had a ticket book. It had a report folder in it, like where I would do my reports. We did written reports. Now we do everything on the computer. Yeah. And see, now we don't have ticket books anymore. We have handheld, what we call ticket writers. So you put it all in there, and you have a little printer in your car that prints out a long ticket for them, and that's what you give them. But we used to have, we don't have those things anymore. We don't have the ticket book or the report books, which were big metal folders. They don't even have to have those, but then they'll have like a safety vest for traffic. They'll have a flashlight. They may have more than one kind of flashlight. So some big flashlights for like directing traffic, a big orange cone to put on it so people can see you at night. They'll have little stinger flashlights for when you're doing that building search and you don't want to, and all that stuff. they'll have like 3 sets of handcuffs, probably some. I used to carry around 3 sets of handcuffs and leg irons for those guys that ran from me to begin with, that I didn't want to chase the second time.
Yeah.
So, and then, there'll be like stuff in there, like some carry snacks, things to eat. And that's another thing too. You may get stuck at a scene that you're not planning. I mean, even past your work, we may have a shooting or something that's really serious, and we may have something where this person can't leave this spot because they're actually in a crime scene.
Right.
So as much as I hate to admit it, you got guys that carry food with them all the time. They'll carry water with them all the time. They'll find, and as bad as it may sound, they carry an empty gallon jug
to do their business.
Yes. Like guys do in the blinds.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. But the thing is I used to have a Leatherman tool, so I carried that with me everywhere. And I thought, man, this is great because I've got pliers, I've got wire cutters.
Yep.
I mean, I used to have to we'd find cattle out, and I would try to help put them back. And so we put them back in the fence, and I'd have to do
repair the opening. Yeah.
So that was great. But then you find that one time that you don't have something that was not on your Leatherman's tool, and the next time you're carrying around with you.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, I was just thinking about this the other day. I need to open up. I've got a bag in my passenger seat. It's like that big, and I've got to go in there and see what I've got. I've got penal codes in there. I've got vehicle damage rating catalogs in there. I got all kinds of stuff in there that I don't even really use anymore. So I'm like thinking, why am I carrying this around if I'm not using? So
if you didn't hear at the beginning of the show, I was sharing a story because I was talking about all the stuff that the police I see in these videos will have in their cars. And it makes me think of when I was little and that Let's Make a Deal show was on TV. And I used to think, oh, yeah, when I grow up, I'm going to carry a big bag and it's going to have paper clips and staplers and fire extinguishers.
And we do have that. We have those kind of, like I carry around staples. I had a stapler. I had it, but back when we're more in paper, I had stapler. I had paper clips. I had these kind of clips that are smaller.
Yeah, clips,
And I actually had notepads in there. I had big pads. I had steno pads because we used to have to also, when we get a call back in the day before computers were really great, they would call you on the radio and you'd open it up and you'd write down the address.
Yep.
And of course you'd have a maps go and all that good stuff.
Yeah.
But now it's okay. You don't have to worry. But all those things, you carry in that car. And it's like you said, I heard you say it before. Some guys keep it in the back seat because it's easier to get to. I have a rifle. I have it in a rack, but back in the day, they didn't have racks. So you might keep your rifle right up in the floorboard in case you need it, or a shotgun right behind the passenger seat in case you had to pull it out.
Yeah.
Luckily for us, now we have a place to put them.
Yeah. And
what else was I going to ask you? I think there was something else I wanted to ask you,
and I can't think of what it was now. I will ask you, because I'm obsessed with pit maneuvers and police pursuits on YouTube right now. Where do you learn to drive? Like, I don't imagine that these videos I'm watching, that those are the only police that have to be able to chase a fleeing suspect in a vehicle. But where do you learn? Is it just through the years you do it? Because I watch some of these, and these guys are like masters at driving in traffic and on slippery roads and when it's dark and
it's funny
150 miles an hour. And
it's funny you asked that. I just had to go. We have to go through driver training every couple of years to keep certified to drive a squad car. And like, I forget, what the acronym was for it, but it was a National Highway. It's not the traffic safety people, but there's a group out there that they do driver training for regular folks, but they also do it for professional folks.
Oh, wow.
And so when we were in the academy, we had to take like a 8-hour, well, actually we got out of the academy, we got here, we take an 8-hour all-day class in how to chase each other safely around and operate cars, shuffle steering and all that. They give you all the little techniques that you use to try to make sure, when you go into turns a lot of people will whip out to turn, and you're not turning like that. You're cutting, so you're cutting off time for them and stuff. But like during COVID, nobody wanted to be in the car with other people because we're afraid you catch COVID.
Yeah.
So for COVID, we didn't do a lot of the driver training. So someone woke up like earlier this year and said, we haven't done our training and we're not all certified. So you got to go out there and do it. So I just got done going out and doing my training. And I'll tell you, I've driven a Crown Vic. I've driven, the old Crown Vics, the Caprices, the new Crown Vics. This first time I've ever done it in a Tahoe. And a Tahoe is just like crazy.
Yeah,
I mean, the new Tahoes also have gadgets in them, to slow you down if you're getting too close to something, or they help you stay in the lane and all that stuff. You got sensors all around them and stuff. So it what's funny and sad at the same time is it's pursuit rated, but because of those things, the gizmos they have in there to keep you safe, those are also the things that detract from you when you're trying to chase somebody around. Because they don't want you to get too close and all that stuff. So, and it's got anti-lock brakes and everything like that. So, but we go through a reoccurring training every 2 years to get recertified. And like the 8-hour thing that we did at the school, actually it's about 10 hours. That was an all-day thing, and that was really intense and everything. All these, now we only do 4-hour reoccurring ones.
Okay.
And I'm telling you, they're very difficult because you also have to, like the very first thing you do is you back into everything. Like you're driving your car backwards through cones, and you're backing it into places and getting out and backing it in and getting out, and you can't run over any cones because you're relying on your side mirrors and your rear view mirror. Now they tell you can use that camera in the back, but I won't use it because it's not accurate. You're more accurate looking at your mirrors than you are that, because there's a different degree of that.
Okay.
But anyway, we just got done doing that, and that's how a lot of these agencies they may make their people do that full 8-hour every year. And if they do that, that's like, and I know that there are guys out there that are instructors that are continuously adding different things to their programs to make their guys better. We don't pit maneuver.
Okay.
We do spikes.
Okay.
Spike strips. And so we have that training every couple of years as well, where we're, that's a dangerous deal. People get hurt doing that. You can't be, you can be somewhat safe, but not entirely safe. But that's our way of doing things. And we have rules, just like they have the rules of the pit maneuver, that like we can't spike a motorcycle. Okay. There's only 2 tires. And if they're going like 50 or 60 miles an hour, they're going to die.
Yeah.
So we've got rules that we have to follow with doing the spike strips. But generally speaking, I agree with both pit and that, because we at least stand a chance of stopping somebody before they T-bone some family coming home from church.
Because it happens. Yeah. Have you worked ever with canines? Does Grand Prairie have a canine unit?
Good. I love them. I will tell you this. I didn't get a chance to tell you when we were talking before, but I have a German Shepherd mix rescue. He's half German Shepherd, half Grand Pyrenees.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
He's big.
Right.
And he's got all the German Shepherd color, but anyway, he's a big baby. But anyway, what's funny is one of my best stories that I had when I was a rookie was that I worked very close with the canine guys. Matter of fact, we got along so well that he would sometimes request me to go with him when they were doing the searches, because there's actually training for officers. There's a training for certain officers who work around the canines. They train you how to work around, like if a canine is doing something, they train you how to behave in the searches and everything else, so you're more effective. So we had a call for a burglary in progress at a pro shop at a golf course, one of our high-end golf courses. And so I was like the second unit to get there with I was behind canine, and it was me, canine, and then another officer. Then a sergeant showed up and said, Y'all go in. And so Sergeant, the canine, and me all went in while the other officers stayed outside and watched the front. And we went in there and we were doing a search with the canine and everything. And we went through most of the locker rooms and everything else. Then we started hearing some movement in the dining area. And so we all kind of rushed to the dining area. And there's a guy that had a big bay window that was semicircle. And the guy's hitting the window with the butt of a gun, trying to break it out so he can get out. And he's got rubber gloves on and he's got a pistol. He's trying to break the window. And we all get there and we're looking at him and we have the flashlights on him. And he turns around with that gun to point at us. And I'm like, I have a Beretta, I have Beretta 40, and I'm pulling the trigger back little at a time. And the canine released the dog. And the dog actually goes up, hits him right below right above the elbow, flexes his hand open, gun falls out, has him on the ground, is eating him up. And I grab the gun and stick it in the back of my belt so he doesn't get it. And we end up, handcuffing him and all that good stuff. Well, about that time, I'm like, I'm a rookie. I've only been around for like maybe a couple of years. And I'm like, my eyes are this big around. And I just almost shot. I have to look at my gun. And my gun, I pulled the trigger so far back that the hammer stopped. But when I let go of it was already in it. It's like if you were to already pull the trigger back and lock it and then shoot, you have less of a trigger pull.
Yeah.
It was already like that just from me pulling it. So I came that close to shooting a guy. When I got the gun out to unload it, because we unload them so they don't get them again, he would never been able to shoot us because when he was beating the window, it was a Browning high power, and he beat it so bad that he moved the safety. He jammed the safety down where you couldn't open it. So he would have died for nothing.
Yeah.
But that dog saved his life. And I used to tell people that story about that dog saving his life.
Yeah.
And
By getting a hold of him, yeah.
But he got chewed up and he went to jail. I said, yeah, but he's alive.
Yeah.
So
are the dogs trained to bite there because of
that? They're trained to bite in a lot of different areas. Yeah, they're actually trained to go after certain areas.
Okay.
They're not trained to go to the groin.
Okay.
I'll say that. But they are trained to get certain parts of your appendages, stuff like that. I'm telling you, those guys that go out with those dogs, they are so, that's like their family.
Yeah.
And those dogs, when I see the stories about the dogs that get stabbed or shot or killed,
oh yeah.
My heart goes out to the guy that's with them.
Yeah.
Because, they suffer just like somebody in their family died.
Yeah.
And but they're so well trained. We have like 3 canines and one of them's actually just for narcotics. And they're actually run by a narcotics detective.
Okay.
And so we actually had 4 at one time. Actually, to think back, we do have 4. We also have one with an SRO in schools.
Okay.
So, but they're mostly like, some of them are German Shepherds, some are Malinois or
Malinois.
Yeah, I can never say that. And then, but they're like every one of them, great dogs. Very fit, and they do a great job for us.
Yeah. I want to say hello to Cassie. I didn't see when you came in, but hello, Cassie. Thanks for popping in today. I don't think I had more questions for you. I would love, because I feel like you've done what you do long enough. Oh, first I will ask you, is there anyone in the department that's like outlived you as a police officer as far as 31 and a half years? You got some officers?
I got 4 guys ahead of me. And one of them is the guy that I think I told you about, that he worked for me at Six Flags and talked me into taking the job. And he's a sergeant and I'm a lieutenant, but we don't even think that way. We're friends. So yeah, there's like 4 people that have more seniority than me. There is a guy that's badge number, I think 101, and he has like over 40 years and he's still out on the street.
And Grand Prairie. So he's with that same department.
Yep. Wow. Well, actually, he did start out long time ago with the sheriff's department.
Okay.
But he's been with us for probably 30 plus years.
Wow.
And then I've got a couple, like I said, 3 other guys, at which the sergeant is one of them. They're all 3 about the same range. They're like badge number 172, 165, 172, and 174. and I'm 185. So
Wow.
not too many.
So do y'all get around and sit and talk about who's going to retire first?
Well, everybody gigs each other all the time about it. When are you gonna pull this trigger? When are you gonna rip the cord or whatever? I'll tell you this. There is an old wives' tale out there about old cops that if you retire, you better have something to do or you die.
Yeah.
And it's very true.
Yeah.
Because you're so used to all the adrenaline pumping and all the stuff going on every day that if you don't have something to do when you're going to leave, then you might as well stay. And as long as your health's good. I've had a hip replaced a couple of years ago, and came back. They said, "Oh, you won't be back for 16 weeks." I came back in 10 to full duty. Within a week's time, I was already 20 hours of overtime on my feet.
Oh,
and
wow.
It was a test, and it worked. It was great.
Wow.
So, but there's the things that you can do to help yourself. That's great.
Yeah.
But it'll come a time when I'm going to say, my body is not going to be able to continue to do this.
Yeah.
And I told my wife, I'll either be a Walmart greeter or I'll be a Home Depot guy at the front. I don't have a problem talking to folks. So
you could run a rescue with your daughter.
Oh yeah, I could.
Yeah, and you for sure can't retire till you pay for that wedding.
Oh, and yeah, see, I'm telling you, you can have me back on the show because I'll be here for a while. It's I'll be here at least a year after that, at least.
Yeah.
Because that wedding is not cheap. And,
no, none of them are these days.
No, so and then I'm paying for graduation and I'm paying for a wedding.
Yeah.
So you put those things together, and I'm looking at probably working another 2 to 3 more years.
Yeah, just for that. Yeah, yeah. I still sing. I still sing for people.
Really? All right. Well, I have to keep that in mind. Well,
hey, a wedding singer.
But yeah, just like the wedding singer. But my daughter is she's like Taylor Swift in love with all that stuff. So we're having to tell her we would like something a little more traditional. You can do that for your own stuff, but anyway, nothing against Taylor. We all love her, but I would like something a little more traditional,
more wedding-like,
especially if I'm going to pay for it.
Yeah. So. And so what I started to say before I remembered to ask about retirement is what do you most hope that people watching today, what do you want the takeaways to be? Again, knowing that my objective is to help people see and understand and appreciate that law enforcement officers, police officers, sheriff's deputies, SWAT guys, whatever, what do you most hope people will understand that will help me on my mission of letting them see that you're just regular guys. You're just because you wear a different thing to work every day than maybe the rest of us wear. And you maybe have seen some things that, thank goodness, most of us have never seen and will never see. What do you most want people to take away from?
I want people to understand that we're human beings just like they are. And we're no better and we're no worse. And we're doing a profession just like many other people are doing. They're accountants, bankers, teachers, lawyers, all kinds of stuff out there, retail and everything else. They're in any profession. They're majority of the people are great, good people, hardworking people. There's always a few in every profession that cause everyone to kind of, cringe every time something comes out in the media about it. But we're human beings. We have families, we have homes, we do things in the community. We have, we go to church, we do community service on our own. We do all kinds of things. We maybe have side businesses even. We are not always going to be perfect, and we do make mistakes. And we always tell people, I have no problem with somebody calling us up because they have a question or they have a complaint. Because if I did something wrong, and I told this to people many times, if I tell them, if you think I'm doing something wrong here, please call the police department. Ask to speak to my supervisor. Tell him. I go tell him or tell her, tell somebody, because if I'm doing something wrong, I need to know and I need to change it.
Yep.
I mean, a lot of people, there are certain professionals out there that think I know it all. I've done it all. You can't tell me anything. And the fact of the matter is as adults, human beings, we learn stuff every day
that we're
we
living.
make mistakes every day, and we learn things every day.
Yeah.
So unless the one thing I want people carry away from here is that we're out there trying to keep them safe. We're trying to do the things to make their community better, and at least most of us are. And the fact is that we may make a mistake now and then, but I think more or less, most of them are a mistake of the heart when we're doing something. And the fact is that most of us would lay our lives down for people we don't even know. And I mean, I would do it any day. And I'm not a hero. There's a lot of other heroes out there. We're not heroes. We're just people that care about other people and want to have a community, want our communities to have a better standard of life.
Well, some of us do think you're heroes. Those of us who can admit that we could never do it. I couldn't do it. If for some reason I was called on to do it, like, I don't know, there's no one else around and I do know how to shoot. I'm a pretty good shot. I couldn't do it. And maybe I should feel kind of bad about that. I don't know that I would be willing and able to sacrifice myself for people I don't even know, or that I could remember that I can make a positive difference when they're cursing at me and they're spitting at me and they're running away or they're kicking or they're banging their heads on the inside of my police car or all this stuff. Now, my eyes have just been so open by watching these videos on YouTube. There's just some really difficult, challenging people that need a lot of help, a lot more help even than they can get by being arrested a few times, because some of them don't connect the dots. Some of them are so under the influence of stuff all the time that they can't connect the dots. And I just feel like, I've found my calling because I work with animals. I do rescue work. It's very gratifying. It's like an instantly gratifying thing. And the dogs show me that they love me and I'm important to them and they don't have attitudes. And
it's unconditional love from them.
Yeah. And I don't see that as being a regular part of the day of a police officer's job. And maybe that means I need it too much, but I do consider you heroes because I just don't know how much money or how many perks or how many positive memories could really ever, especially not for almost 32 years, could motivate someone to go and do it again the next day and then go and do it again the next day. And so I thank you for that. I appreciate you for that. I love you for that. And you're a hero to me because I couldn't do it. And it's no different than the military to me. Again, I think you put on your uniform and know somewhere in your mind, this could be the day. This could be the day that I really am going to be called to lose it all.
Well, we tell people all the time, you can't be bashful. You got, when we see people and our family and our friends, when you leave them, you say you love them.
Yes.
Because you don't know.
Yeah. Again, it's got to always be in the back of your mind. And I just could not do it. I'm sorry. I couldn't do it. But that's why it's not my calling.
It's okay. You know what you're doing? You're actually doing something positive for us. You're bringing the positive part of what I do out. I couldn't do what you're doing. I don't think I could do it. I mean, I can talk plenty, but it's people like you that have that creative ideas and stuff that make that happen,
Well,
so
I just want to, again, reach somebody who might be watching live today. Hello to Crafty Annie. Sorry, I missed it when you came in. Thanks for being here today. Or somebody that watches after the stream is live. I just want somebody to stop for a minute and rethink if they have been in the camp of, cops are just, I don't know, they think they got all the power or all the negative things I hear. I would imagine
if somebody has a bad experience, they need to tell somebody about it. Mm-hmm. I mean talking about like the police department. Uh-huh. And I know what some people say. They say, "Oh, they're all crooked. They're all covering each other." They talk about the thin blue line and all that stuff. It's not what the media says.
Yeah.
What it is, I'll tell you, as a supervisor for now 2 decades, when I find somebody who really makes this department look bad, they're not doing the right thing, I don't want them here.
Yep.
I want them out of here.
Yep.
And the fact is whether I like it or not, I've helped a few people get out of here.
Yep.
And the bottom line is that if you got a question, ask it. I mean, a lot of people will sit there forever and have something on their mind, and it eats away at them.
Stewing over it.
And that's what makes it worse. Whenever something happens, bring it up, ask about it. You know what? Even if nothing happens, you get it off your chest.
Yep. Yep. Well, and by the same token, I'm going to encourage anybody who is hearing my voice, watching this show, don't hesitate to hand out some praise every now and then. I can't imagine what it might be like for police departments to get a call at least every now and then and say, I just wanted to say, I just got pulled over by Officer Taddonio, and I was speeding or whatever I was doing, and he was so polite to me, and he didn't make me feel like an idiot, and he didn't give me a hard time, and I just wanted to say thanks for that, because my other experiences have been bad or whatever it is, because nobody hesitates to complain, but so few people will give praise, will give shout outs when it goes well. And I just can't imagine how much that could help officers deal with the garbage if every now and then at least they got a little reminder that some people do appreciate what they're doing and are thankful for it. And so I want to encourage you guys to remember those are humans behind the badges. Those are humans inside those uniforms. And just like you don't like to have to deal with unpleasant things or disrespectful people or, misbehaving people, why would they? You don't get into that job because you want to work with criminals all the time. I can see that now from what you've said, from what the other officers that have been on my previous episodes for this series have said. That's not what draws them to the field. Ooh, yeah, I can't wait to have to deal with a gang member. I can't wait to have to deal with a guy that just murdered, his child or whatever. No, that's not what it's about. And I just encourage you guys. So the next time you have an interaction with an officer, I want you to remember who they are, what they really are. And then I want you to take that extra step and send an email. There's all kinds of ways to get a hold of departments now, or call them up and say, hey, I know y'all don't hear this very much. I just wanted to call and say thanks because I just met Officer so-and-so, and here's how it went. And I was just so impressed, and he was just such a good guy and turned something that could have been really uncomfortable into a positive experience, into a learning experience, and into an opportunity for me to remember why the majority of officers do what they do. That's my takeaway for everyone. And I am absolutely thrilled that you were on the show. I mean, this feels like a reunion to me. I don't even know the last time I might have seen you. There might have been a long time. Because I know a lot of our classes would do reunion stuff together, and the class behind and the class ahead were all invited to come. So I might have seen you at something like that once upon a time, but I don't remember.
I would bet it's at least been 20 or 30 years.
I bet it has. And yet I feel like I've kept up with you because we've been on Facebook together, and that's been a nice way to stay.
As much bad stuff as you hear once in a while about, social media, the nice thing about it is being able to keep in touch with people.
Connections, yes. Being connected, yes.
But thank you for your attitude, and thank you for what you're telling your viewers. It is important, and that may be the one thing that directs that officer to either continue to have a bad attitude or to show him that there's some good out there and have a better attitude.
Correct, right. So, it's still an opportunity to maybe make a difference.
You may make the difference. That may be the one thing in that day that officer gets that makes his day, that makes him a better officer, better person from that point going forward.
Yes, you guys think on that. Yes. So here's a message from Butler Family Farm. Thanks for coming here today. Yes, Mark, thanks for coming here today. I know Jerry does a good job because he's like this with all people, but try it.
Thank you, Butler family.
You might like it. You just might like it. And I know you will have the opportunity to you'll make a difference. Maybe you won't even ever see it. You may never interact with that officer again. You don't even have to give your name, so he may not ever know that you're the person that called to say the good thing, but it will go back to him. I guarantee it. If it happens, the department heads will go to the officer and say, you won't believe this. I just got a call about how awesome you are.
And that does happen. We do get that information from dispatch, or we'll get it from like somebody higher above saying, hey, we got a call in for so-and-so today.
Okay. Yes. So yeah, try that out, guys. And then I want reports. I want reports from you next time that happens. Not that I want to get pulled over or anything, but I mean, I don't know a lot of officers around here by name. We have like virtually no crime here. So there's not really opportunities for people to, there really is like no crime here. It's an amazing place.
That's great.
Anyway, so I just want to thank you. This was a treat for me to just feel like I'm catching up with you. I'm so proud to know you. I just feel so fortunate that we had connections that go back so far, and that you have always been a good guy in my eyes. You've always made a good impression. And I love that you turned that into something so positive. And I know that you are making a difference in the lives of the officers that you supervise.
Yes.
And I thank you for that. I thank you for sharing your wisdom and your experience and your knowledge, and for being willing to lay it all down for us. I couldn't do it.
Well, it's certainly, and I don't mean this in any facetious way, it's certainly my pleasure every day to do what I do.
Oh, I love it.
And so I love doing it. And you're right. Most of my customers work for me. I still deal with some of the other customers out there, but what I want to see, we've got a lot of young, great people coming in. They're going to make you even more safe and more happy. And so, it's a positive moving forward, and especially in this area, the Dallas-Fort Worth area. I'm not trying to dismay anyone else. But this area is very good about recognizing the good law enforcement stuff. And so I hope that they continue. I'm glad that, thank you so much for letting me be on your show to be able to tell folks a little bit of the story on this. And I mean, I really don't mind telling it. I really appreciate everything you're doing to try to make people understand, or try to help people understand that, it's really not as bad sometimes as the media would have you think.
Oh. Not at all.
And there are a lot of good people that put this stuff on every day, and they go out there, and when you sleep at night, you're asleep, you have a good, you have good dreams, and you get up and have your coffee in the morning, you don't know about all the bad stuff that happened because it got taken care of.
Yep. Well, thank your superiors for me also, because I know you had to go through the process to get the clearance to do it, since it's an active duty kind of situation. Yep. And I might have to find an excuse to come to Grand Prairie, and I'll send you a note, let you know I'm going to be there.
Yeah, let me know. We'll go do lunch or something.
Okay, awesome. Thank
you. And if you ever, need some cop stuff, you give me a call.
Okay, all right, I'll do. Hopefully you won't have to hear from me then.
No, I mean, like, if you ever need a story or something,
yeah. Well, we may even just do a follow-up visit sometime.
Well, the big joke is when I left Six Flags, they gave me like presents when I left Six Flags, and one of the presents was a book, all the short stories I've ever told, and when you open up the book, all the pages are blank.
Short stories.
Yeah, and also my nickname was Walt Disney. Because of all the stories I told. Yeah. I mean, when I was a cop.
Yeah. So, and it all just started back because you were a high school football hero to me way back in the day.
Oh, well, thanks. I'm glad I had somebody that I was, that way too. But anyway, thank you, Kathy. If you ever need me again, I'll be glad to help you out.
All right. Love to you and your wife and the family. And I'll be anxious for wedding pictures and stuff when that time comes. And again, thank you. Thank you all. If you please pass my appreciation on to the department there.
I will. I will. Thank you so much.
Take care. Bye.
You have a great day.
Oh gosh, y'all, that was so much fun for me. I hope you're enjoying these shows, because it's like every one of the episodes I've done now since I started my support law enforcement series reminds me of why I wanted to do it. It reminds me that I maybe have a little bit of a different opinion than some people may have about law enforcement. And I'm not so quick to get on that bandwagon when there's a news story about some interaction that it looks bad and maybe some poor decisions were made. And the reason I'm able to do that is because I've known people like Mark. There have been law enforcement people in my life that I've known, some of them for a long time, and some of them relatively new. When Kevin was on the show, he's a relatively new person in my life. And I've been reminded every time. It's like it's been an affirmation for me, because since my perspective and perception is that these are regular people just like everybody else. You know, again, they wear a uniform. They wear something different to work every day, and they have to have the badge and they have to have the body. There's things different about how they have to do their jobs or what they need to be able to do their jobs, but they're still just people. It's their job. They have to be there to get paid. They have to complete the work to get paid, and it has to be right. It has to be accurate. The reports have to be thorough. You know, all the same thing as if you're an accountant, or as if you're a lawyer, or as if you're a teacher. They have all the boxes still they have to check off at the end of the day. It's not like they get some kind of pass because they have guns or because they're in danger sometimes. They still have very high standards they have to meet. And I'm telling you, you just watch some of these. Mark sent me a link even for a video that I watched earlier today. And again, I watched that whole video thinking I could not do this. I don't know. I don't consider myself a violent person, but I don't know how I could keep from just smacking somebody in the face after one too many, again, spitting, cussing, kicking, just absolutely over the top, rude and disrespectful people, because they're getting pulled over for a traffic violation because they're speeding. I mean, like there's no question that they did something they shouldn't have done. But instead of them just saying, I'm sorry, officer, I'm sorry, and hand over your license. I can't tell you how many times now I've watched these videos where people won't even do that. They won't even give them their name. They won't even hand over their driver's license or their insurance and I just think, how do you think that's making it better? And then the people that will turn what would have been that simple traffic stop. Maybe when I did, y'all check out my reaction video to the police pursuits, because there were so many of those I watched, even though the clips didn't all make it into that video. That would have been a 3-day long video, y'all. But there were so many instances where we learn after the fact, after the person's then been taken to jail, the officer was just pulling the person over to let them know that one of their taillights was out. And then it turns into a felony because the person, again, they won't cooperate at all, and they won't get out of the car. And then they're fighting, and then they're, drawing their own weapons and stuff, or threatening to do those things. And I just think, wow. And I'm not going to say that I would be happy if something bizarre enough happened to me. I don't know, misidentification or whatever, and I have to be stopped for something that maybe I really didn't do it. Okay, I'm sure it happens every now and then. I don't know that it would occur to me to run. Well, I mean, physically, I could not, like on my feet, outrun pretty anybody, I don't guess anymore. I used to be fast, but not anymore. Or to get in the car and run, to flee and have, that would just never even occur to me. Not just because it doesn't make sense and I wouldn't have a plan, but because at least somewhere in my mind, I know, okay, it's going to go better for me if I just let them do what they need to do. And then I will have an opportunity. So I don't know. Again, I've never been in that situation. I hope I'm never in that situation. But so far, the stories I hear and the videos I'm watching, that's not what it is never mistaken identity. It's never legit that, oh, yeah, this friend told me I could borrow his car when it's a stolen car. So I watched one video where not only was it a stolen car, and the young person in the car said, oh, yeah, my buddy so-and-so said I could borrow his car. The buddy was dead in the trunk of the car. And the kid, he's fighting, he's lying. And I don't know. So here I'm going off on a tangent. But again, the purpose of the tangent maybe it wasn't a tangent because it's related, is just to remind you where I'm coming from, where this series came from, because I appreciate the reminders that our law enforcement officers have to deal with so much dangerous garbage that you and I, 99.9% of the people watching this now or that will watch it after we're live, 99.9% of you will never even be near it. Like, it won't even be happening in your city or your neighborhood. I guess it'll happen in your city, but you'll never have to be near it. And these guys do it every day for 12 hours at a time when they have 12-hour shifts. So I won't keep you any longer. Just want to thank you again all for being here and invite you to be with me on Sunday night for, well, it's not this Sunday that I have the premiere. Tuesday, 31st, 10 a.m., premiere of my Croctober video. And then next Sunday, the 5th of November, 7 p.m., for the first ever, what I hope will be an annual Dogs of Rich Cat Ranch taste test. That was so fun, y'all. I appreciate all of you. I love you showing my guests support by watching the show. I really do encourage you to look for opportunities to do that firsthand with officers you encounter or departments in your city, and share the praise. Remind them that there are those of us here who respect them and appreciate what they do and understand the sacrifices they have to make to do it. As always, be safe, be happy, be well, be blessed. I will see you in my next video. I don't have anything lined up for sure for next Friday. Things still working out some logistics with my neighbor to the north, who is a retired deputy sheriff from California, to see if he might be able to spend a little time with us. And then we move on to a new category, so to speak. As always, send me an email if you want to be on the show. Let me take this off. If you liked today's video, please give it a like. You know, YouTube loves that stuff. Share the video, if you will, just so we can spread awareness and make people a little more open to the possibility that police officers are people too. Here's that email address again if you need to get a hold of me. And that's all. I'll leave the chat open for a little while so you guys can say your goodbyes. And then I'll see you Tuesday. Well, I'll see you Sunday. I have a video coming out on Sunday. Yeah, it's hard to keep track, but I have a video coming out Sunday, and then Tuesday. The last installment of The Trumpet of the Swan will go up next week. If you've missed that, I do have a playlist. I'm going to read through the whole book. One of my favorites of all time. So I hope you enjoy it as well. Be safe again. Be happy. Be well. Be blessed. Love to all from Rich Cat Ranch. And I will see you in the next video. Bye, friends.